Hey, strangers. Welcome to another episode of The Strange Sessions, the final episode of Season 8.
Woohoo!
I don't have any alliteration for us today, so I'm just going to jump in and say, I'm Krista, if you're new here. That's Kurt. He's my co-host. And our favorite guest host, his brother Corey, is here with us today.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, welcome to the show.
How are you guys?
Never been here before.
Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
It was nice.
Good.
Ate a lot.
Over at your house, Corey?
No, my wife's aunt and uncle usually have the Thanksgiving. So, I don't know, there was probably like 40 people there.
Shut up.
There was packed. There were a lot of
Wow.
people there.
We had 4.
Had like 40, like 3 dogs.
Dang.
Oh, the dogs were so cute, though.
I've
Yeah.
never been to a holiday with that many people.
That's a lot of people.
That is a
Yeah,
lot
so
of
we
people.
did that, and that was nice.
And then you went geocaching with Aaron?
Well, geocaching, but it was really cold
Yeah, it was
yesterday,
really
so it was a
cold.
lot of... We did some shopping because we had to pick up stuff. Like, his family is huge with Belgian trip, which is a meat, like bratwurst, kind of.
Tripe?
It's called trip.
Trip.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think it's tripe. But
I've heard of tripe.
The
I've
funny
never
thing
heard of
about
tripe.
it is that it stinks. It like smells so bad. Like the first time he gave me leftovers, I threw them out because I'm like, this is horrible. But now I'm used to eating them.
Oh,
but we had to
funny.
stop and pick up like 30 pounds of them.
What is it?
A meat,
It's a
stomach lining
Oh.
thing. I don't know. It's a Belgian thing, but it's way better than it
future
sounds.
taste test or what?
Huh?
Future
we
taste test?
We can. I got some at home. He brought some leftovers for me. I should have brought some
Next
down here
season.
today.
Season 9.
We already got a funky one for the Christmas episode that I don't know. I'm just a little scared about the shark.
Yeah, it's right there. I'm looking at
Yeah.
it. We
How
should
was-
start with that one and then do one of the other ones after.
No, because the Christmas. Well, the Christmas one. We're saving that for
We
the
have
Christmas
two
episode.
the
Yeah,
shark?
Yes.
The shark is for the Christmas.
Yes.
Okay.
And then, but we do have 2 things left, so maybe
4
a
things.
palate cleanser
We have 2 snacks and 2
and
drinks.
2 drinks.
Yep.
We got to
We
do one
need
of
a
those
We also
now.
have things to
cleanser.
open up.
But if you don't want to listen to us,
Oh, yeah. If you don't want to sit through the next 20-ish minutes, might be a little longer, just hit pause and check the show notes, and you can fast forward. And actually, if you're on YouTube, hey, we're on YouTube, everybody. I put in the chapters, so you can just skip ahead.
oh, nice. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Take a raise.
I'm glad I figured it
Take
out.
a raise out of petty cash.
Because I hate it when people don't put those in there.
I
like
want
to
to give
see it.
shout outs to our 2 newest strangers that have joined our Strangers Facebook group, and those are Sarah Ingerson and Quinn Dube. I think it's pronounced D-U-B-E. I think it's Quinn Dube. Thank you so much for joining, Sarah and
Welcome.
Quinn. Love you guys. Housekeeping, I have season finale. This is a season finale.
Oh, that's your housekeeping?
That's my housekeeping. But I also want to say that last week I did that Gilmore Girls trivia
Oh, yeah.
contest. We came in dead last. But it was fun.
You're a noob.
I'm a noob. It was a ton of fun, and I got there early, and I sat down, and the hostess that was running the trivia thing, there was a girl sitting at a table by me, and she goes, I put you 2 together because you 2 have something in common. So we talked, and then she does a podcast. Her and her friend do a podcast about mysterious things.
Nice.
Like they did the Malaysian flight.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they it's a lot like our topics.
Okay.
It is called Mysteriously Eclectic, and I've listened 2 or 3 episodes, and it's awesome. It's they're from the area, so more accents.
Yeah. Oh, I
perhaps.
like it. We need more
But yeah,
Wisconsin
I love it.
accents.
Mysteriously Eclectic. Check it out.
Cool.
That's what I have for housekeeping. Should we jump into our package opening or a taste test?
Well, they're in my hands, so let's just do this.
Okay.
Are we doing all these right now?
Sure.
Okay. We have a couple postcards. Quinn. Gotta get my spectacles.
Is that the Quinn that I just gave a shout out to?
Greetings from Dreadville. I don't know. Oh, Dreadville. I love that. Hey guys, I found this postcard in my house and have no idea where it came from. Okay. I can't read that because it's like, so I thought I'd send it to Kurt and Krista. I'm still listening after all these years, and I think I can see the Sacramento postcard I sent to you in the background of some of your videos.
Probably. I'm sure it's back there.
Yeah, I think I know what she's talking about.
God, we have
Anyways,
a lot of stuff hanging.
I know we do. Well, that was so Wisconsin.
Was it?
God, we got a lot of stuff, hey.
No, I said hanging. I didn't say hey.
Anyway, thanks for all the years of quality content, Quinn. So
Thank you,
Probably
Quinn.
can't see this.
Thank you so much.
And then we got Big Ole.
Big Ole? Big Ole? I think it's Big Ole.
Oh, is it Big Ole? Alexandria, Minnesota. Whoa. Greetings from Alexandria, strangers. We don't have a local cryptid, but we do have the Kensington runestone here. Maybe a future topic for Kurt to poo-poo over. Stay strange, Mike Springler.
Thanks, Mike. I've been known to poo-poo on occasion.
Yep.
Thank you guys so much for all this.
Yeah, we love getting postcards. All right, and then we have a package.
Aaron and I stopped
Kayla.
and checked the P.O. box before we went geocaching yesterday, and there was nothing in it, so we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to send us stuff over the holiday break, go ahead. Just not food, because we won't get together to record again until February.
Oopsie, good thing I check. Oh, look at this guy. He's cute. Okay, I don't think there's anything else in there. Cute little mountainscape Bigfoot. I don't know if you guys can
That
see
is
that.
cute.
Really
That's
cute.
awesome.
Is it Christmas Yeti? That is adorable. Oh, jeez. And here's another one. Oh, look it.
Cool.
He's making the heart symbol. I don't know if they can see this on YouTube or not.
I like making the heart symbol.
This is so cute. This was probably so far away. Dear Krista, happy holidays and Merry Christmas. I hope your new year brings you and Jim and Lucy much happiness and health. Stay strange, Kayla. Well, you got to read yours then.
This is so
That's
cute.
so cute.
This is super cute. Dear Kurt, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I hope 2025 is filled with health, happiness, and luck, I think that is. Or work. It could be work, because I need work too.
Either one works.
Stay warm, safe, optimistic, and strange. All the best, Kayla. Thank you so
Kayla.
much, Kayla.
She's
You
so
are the best. We
sweet.
love Kayla.
Yes, we do.
Did a little geocaching with her one day, which was actually really cool. Showing her the ropes, and it was cool meeting them.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Kayla. What else? No, taste
Taste
test? No?
test?
I feel like we've never done this before.
I know. Well, they're behind you. I don't know what you want to start with.
You want to reach in and pick one of the two beverages? Sure. I thought about
good
bringing...
one. I think they're both probably good.
Yeah.
Doritos guava flavor.
Oh, that's going to be good. I
Yeah,
like
that is gonna be
guava.
good.
I love anything guava flavored.
So 2 of us have a mug, and I figure one of us would just drink out of the bottle.
I'll do the bottle unless Corey wants to.
No,
Let me take a picture.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't done this in so long, but we didn't. The last episode
Been
was
2 weeks.
Was
Oh,
no,
it was
the last
Skype,
episode was
that's why.
Skype because of
Yeah,
my
yeah,
car.
Is this twist?
We'll find out if not.
I think it is.
Nope.
Oh, Lucy left her mark on you, Corey. You're like covered in dog hair.
That's right.
I do have a lint roller upstairs.
Is that your stomach?
That was my stomach.
I didn't even hear it. Wow.
That was McDonald's. Corey bought me McDonald's this morning. Thank you, Corey.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Yep.
Glug some in there.
I love guava. I really do. I like anything guava flavored.
Smells good.
It does. I can smell it.
I just smelled my microphone for some reason.
You
Smells like a microphone.
ready?
Let's do it.
It is really bubbly. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's good though.
It's not like overly
Yeah,
sweet.
subtle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is subtle.
it's very subtle.
I think it's good.
It is really good. I expected it to be more in your face.
Mm-hmm. I feel like if you gave this to me and we're like, what is this? I'd have no idea though.
No, I think I would say pineapple.
Say bubble gum.
I like it.
I wouldn't be able to name cherry. I'm getting like cherry for some reason. It's
awesome.
good. It's good. I'm giving it a 7.
I'm giving it a 8.5.
An 8?
Yeah, I'll give it a 7 too.
Okay, I gave it.
It's pretty good.
8.5. All right, Corey G. Reach into the mystery box.
Of crisps, maybe. I think they're...
Original fresh baked peanuts.
They look like they're-
smoky.
Smoky.
They're puffy though, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to take a picture.
Baked peanuts. I have never seen that before.
I haven't either. That's interesting. They look like Cheetos.
They look-
kind-
yeah, they
or
look-
cheesy puffs.
They look like cheesy poofs.
Cheesy
They look
poofs.
like peanut flavored cheesy poofs.
Yeah. Rip that baby open.
Take a sniff.
Is it smoky?
No, but it smells like peanuts.
Oh, it totally smells like peanuts. Okay, I'm just going
Are they actual peanuts that were?
I'm actually going to hold this up to the camera real
But why
quick.
are they fluffy?
I don't know.
Like-
It is a little perplexing. I will be honest. I'm going to take a picture. Not on the password, Krista. Ugh. Why do I do that?
peanuts is up there, so it must be ground peanuts made into like a puff.
Oh, it could be.
Oh, that totally smells like peanuts.
Like peanut butter,
Yeah.
specifically.
You ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's very peanut buttery. It's weird.
It kind of tastes like roasted peanut butter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't taste smoke.
No, but it's weird
Yeah.
chewing.
It's hard to understand. Like,
It's an interesting texture.
It's weird chewing something like a curl, like a cheese curl that
Tastes like a
flavored.
peanut.
It's good, but it's
Yeah.
weird. I like them.
Yeah,
you can take them.
Krista, more?
I'm good.
I'm gonna give these a 8.
Yeah.
Don't give him an 8.
I can give them an 8 too. 8 across the board.
Good aftertaste.
Yeah, they're, but it's weird. It's like weird eating peanut butter in cheesy.
I mean, it's a
form.
really strong peanut flavor in a good way.
It is, and it's
Fresh
not as
baked
as
peanuts.
sweet as I thought it would be. I expected it to be sweeter.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
All right.
That is interesting.
Now what?
I don't know.
I feel like we're done earlier than usual, but that's okay. We have a long
Yeah, we have 3
recording
of us
day
doing
today.
doing a story. Mine's not very long. You said yours is pretty short.
Yeah.
But I think we'll be chiming in on each other's stories. Or at
Corey's the
least
meat, we're the potatoes in this.
I don't think I want to be the meat.
I'm Corey and I. Corey's the meat. I don't think mine's very short, shorter than my usual stuff. But I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know there were a couple other cool like rock music mysteries.
Yeah.
But I knew Corey was doing his, so I wanted to look for something other than rock music. So
Cool.
I think we picked good ones. So Corey, what did you pick for us?
I'm not going to tell you.
Oh, okay. It's going to be a confusing show.
I'll tell you after the intro here.
Okay.
Are we doing this?
We're doing this. Let's jump in.
All right. At 5 o'clock a.m. on Wednesday, November 9th, 1966, in London, England, a well-respected British musician stormed out of a studio at the end of a long day of jamming and songwriting with his band. It's said that perhaps he had a fight with the drummer. The band was working on their new album, hoping it would be a hit. The musician got in his car and subsequently crashed and died. Actually beheaded, to be more factual. The car was an Austin Healey. The studio that day was Abbey Road Studios. The new album was destined to be Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. The band was the Beatles. And the well-respected musician who died was Paul McCartney.
Dun, dun, dun.
Paul McCartney, the bass player, co-founder, co-songwriter, co-composer for the biggest band in the world, the Beatles, was dead. Or was he? So this will be the Paul is dead rumors that circulated in the late 60s, possibly into the early 70s.
You still see stuff about it today where people are convinced that he was dead.
So can't start this without a few facts about Paul or the Beatles. So James Paul McCartney was born June 18th, 1942. He was a British singer, songwriter, musician who gained worldwide fame with the Beatles, for whom he played bass guitar and shared primary songwriting and lead vocal duties with John Lennon. Paul McCartney is known for his melodic approach to bass playing. He was versatile with a wide tenor vocal range. His songwriting partnership with Lennon was the most successful in modern music history. So a few facts on the Beatles for those that weren't around or never really looked into just how big they were. They were recipients of 7 Grammy Awards, 15 Ivor Novello Awards for songwriting and composing. They had 6 diamond albums as well as 20 multi-platinum albums, 16 platinum albums, and 6 gold albums in the U.S. In the UK, the Beatles have 4 multi-platinum albums, 4 platinum albums, 8 gold albums, and 1 silver album.
So they weren't one-hit wonders.
They were definitely not one-hit wonders. They were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1988. They were the best-selling band in history. The Beatles have sold more than 600 million units as of 2012, which was the nearest I could come up with as a...
I would have assumed that they would be like one of the first bands inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. At least they should have been.
Yeah.
I don't know what year that started.
Yeah, 1988 it says, and I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a joke, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, for some of the bands that aren't included.
Yeah, I agree.
And some of the people that they did include.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that Iron Maiden's not in there is
You and I just
travesty.
talked about that. Yeah, Iron Maiden should be in there because Iron Maiden are.
Ozzy Osbourne was just inducted like a couple months ago.
I think Ozzy Osbourne's overrated. That's going to get me some hate mail, I
Probably.
suppose. But sorry.
I'll send you one myself.
You can't deny though, like his history in rock and roll. It's
Oh, yeah.
weird that it
he
took
has an
that
important
long.
legacy, but
Yeah.
I just not crazy about his stuff.
I also think it's weird that you get inducted as a solo artist and you can get inducted as a band member.
Yeah.
So Black Sabbath and then Ozzy.
Yep.
So.
Mm-hmm.
From 1991 to 2009, the Beatles sold 57 million albums in the United States, according to Nielsen. They have had more number one albums in the UK charts, 15, and sold more singles in the UK, 21.9 million, than any other act. In 2004, the Rolling Stone ranked the Beatles as the most significant and influential rock music artist of the last 50 years. They ranked number one on Billboard magazine's list of the all-time most successful Hot 100 artists. As of 2017, they hold the record for the most number one hits on the Billboard Hot 100 with 20. Some of these things may
Didn't
have...
Taylor Swift beat
I think,
them?
yeah, some of these things, according to Wikipedia, probably didn't get updated yet, but I'm assuming Taylor Swift might be up there. There was some there with Drake, too. Like, Drake may have done that.
Seriously?
But I
Drake.
talk about overrated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed on that one.
Yeah.
Well, the Recording Industry Association of America certifies that the Beatles have sold 183 million units in the United States, more than any other artist. They were collectively included in Time magazine's compilation of the 20th century's 100 most influential people. In 2014, they received the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. On January 16th each year, starting in 2001, people celebrate World Beatles Day with the blessing from the United Nations.
Holy cow. So, yeah,
Okay.
That's pretty impressive.
Yep. During the week of April 4th, 1964, the Beatles occupied the top 5 spots simultaneously on the Billboard Hot 100. Can't Buy Me Love, Twist and Shout, She Loves You, I Want to Hold Your Hand, and Please Please Me were those 5 songs.
All good songs.
In addition to those 5 songs, 7 of their other songs held various lower positions on the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart. So at any given point, they were about 12% of the Hot 100, which is kind of crazy to think
Yeah.
about.
That's nuts.
According to Nielsen, 73,700,000 people watched the Beatles' first performance on The Ed Sullivan Show, the largest TV audience in the history of television. When the Beatles toured Australia in 1964, the reception they got remains the high water mark of Beatlemania anywhere in the world. Adelaide, the city in Australia, had over 300,000 fans turn out to see the band drive in a motorcade from the airport into the city.
Wow, just to watch them drive by in a car.
It's
Yep.
crazy when you see like footage of people going crazy,
Yeah.
like teenage girls going crazy and passing out
Screaming,
and
crying.
screaming and crying.
It's also crazy to think that Adelaide's population was just shy of 700,000.
Oh wow,
So 300,000, almost a little bit less than half.
half.
In Melbourne,
a lot.
Australia, over 20,000 fans lined the route from the airport to the hotel. Army and Navy units were brought in to help control the crowds. Cars were crushed. Hundreds of girls fainted, and over 50 people were admitted to the hospital with broken bones.
It's kind of like
Wow.
if the Strange Sessions ever did a
Oh, yeah.
live
Yeah.
show. I'm sure it would be the same.
Pandemonium.
Get the Army and Navy out. When the Beatles arrived at the Atlanta airport during their 1965 American tour, dozens of fans ran onto the runway and climbed onto the plane while it was still in motion on the runway.
Lord.
I've seen video of that.
That's
It's nuts.
The group were trapped inside until police moved the
That had to
crowds.
be scary, actually.
Yeah.
That's what you guys don't want to become famous.
No.
And I can see why.
Mm-mm.
I don't think we'll ever hit that level of
No,
fame. Where
I think
people
we're
will
safe.
people will be climbing up on my Kia Soul when I'm trying to drive.
So here's a couple of the weirder facts that I found. After their breakup sometime in late 1969, the 4 Beatles were never all together in the same room at the same time again. Not a meeting, not a social gathering, nothing until after John's funeral after his murder in December of 1980. So that was the first time in 12 years
Yeah.
where they were actually together.
I
in the same room.
remember. I think we talked about it on here. The Saturday Night Live thing, where Lorne Michaels came out because he heard that he came out and he said because everybody wanted a Beatles reunion, he held up a check for $1,000 and said if you guys come down here right now and perform a song, you guys can have this check. And he said you can give Ringo less if you want. And down down the street, they were in New York too. Paul McCartney and John Lennon were actually watching Saturday Night Live together, and they were like, we should go down there. But then they decided they didn't want to.
That would have been
but
so great.
It would have been great.
The Beatles' entire career as a band was finished before any member hit 30 years old.
That's crazy to me.
That is wild.
Corey told me that when he was doing his research, and that just floored me.
Yeah.
It's hard to try to compare any artist and their response they drew to the Beatles. I would have to say Elvis Presley.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were not around for either of those artists at their prime, you really wouldn't know how the craze and hysteria was that followed them and everything they did.
Even Taylor Swift wasn't
Nothing.
at that level.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, with all the Swifties and as nuts as people go for her and go to her concerts, it wasn't like that level.
Yeah, I mean, if you're one of the younger people that have no idea, like, just how popular they were, you have to go on YouTube and, like, type in Beatlemania or Beatlemania history, and it'll just show crowds of people, women or girls passing out and having to be carried, like, off the crowd into the side to kind of, like, wake up.
It's so crazy.
People waiting, like, looking to see where their hotel rooms were and, like, booking all these hotel rooms, trying to just get a chance to see them, let alone anything like that.
I think the Beatles were probably as popular with the parents as Elvis was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Not fans.
Which is not much because they were long-haired hoodlums.
Well, not in the beginning, but yeah.
No.
I mean, there's also that backlash, too, where John said that they were more popular than Jesus.
Yeah.
Rumors of Paul McCartney's death began to circulate in 1969, a time when the strained relationships among the Beatles were becoming kind of public knowledge. Written versions of the story first appear in college newspapers in the fall of 1969, but the precise origin of the rumor is not really known. Most seem to agree that the origin is from an article written in the Drake University student newspaper, the Drake Times Delphic, on September 17th, 1969, by Tim Harper, which outlined a series of clues found in the Beatles' music that suggest Paul was insane, freaked out, and even dead. The story caught on with the public when it was broadcast by a radio station in Detroit, Michigan. Russell Gibb, a disc jockey, for those of you that don't know what a DJ stands for, actually, it's disc jockey, for WKNR-FM, received a strange phone call from an Eastern Michigan University student named Tom Zarsky. Tom told Gibb that Paul McCartney had died in 1966 and was then replaced by a look-alike with the name of William Shears Campbell. The Beatles had subsequently left clues in all their albums about this deception. Gibbs related the rumor of Paul's death on the air, which brought a strong reaction from listeners. Following the phone call, a University of Michigan student named Fred LeBoer wrote a satirical review of Abbey Road titled "McCartney's Dead, New Evidence Brought to Light" for the Michigan Daily. WKNR followed up with a 2-hour show titled "The Beatle Plot" on October 19th. On October 21st, Robbie Young of WABC in New York devoted an hour to the subject before he was removed from the air for breaking format. WABC's single was so strong at the time that it could be heard in 38 states and several other countries, and subsequently radio programs and newspapers around the United States picked up on the story, and it spread like wildfire. The aforementioned William Campbell, MI6 brought the surviving Beatles apparently to their headquarters and informed them that being the biggest band in the world at the time, Paul being killed posed a national security risk. They determined that it could cause a wave of suicides or national disturbances. They had then been notified several months previously that one individual had won a, quote, Paul lookalike contest the previous year. Being in the intelligence game, they had contingencies already for this in place. They contacted this winner and brought him to MI6, his name being William Campbell. They informed him that they had a hell of a gig for him and got him ready to replace Paul McCartney in the Beatles. With a minimal bit of plastic surgery, a bit of vocal training and instrument training, they got him up to speed, and then the Beatles just carried on. Supposedly, John Lennon and the real Paul got along well, but John did not like this replacement Paul, or fake Paul, or Fall, as they started to call him, or William Campbell. Anything? Questions?
Just that, you and I talked about this a little bit on the phone that one day that, like we kind of joked about when, I think last Christmas or one before, we talked about Avril Lavigne being replaced because people were worried there'd be a panic if she died. And that's whatever, like I love Avril Lavigne, but the Beatles, it's like a legitimate thing when they were that big. Like if something happened to one of the band members, I could see it being a wave of suicides possibly or whatever. So this actually does kind of make sense to me, but
I think I've seen pictures of this guy too, and he actually does, or he did at the time.
Look like Paul.
So has anyone seen this guy today?
No, I don't think I ever saw in my research what happened to him after it was all said and done.
Which just feeds the conspiracy, right? That nobody knows where he is now.
Yeah. I mean, I do think it's. We'll get to it. Hey,
I
just got curtain.
We'll get to it, but I think it all just kind of fell off when people realized that really wasn't much much to this. Even the car accident that I mentioned at the beginning was kind of shrouded in some truth because Paul McCartney had crashed his moped in December 1965, which resulted in a chipped tooth and a cut to his lip.
Not a beheading, though?
Not a beheading.
Okay.
And in January 67, someone driving Paul McCartney's car had crashed it on the M1 motorway. Those that believe Paul died in 1966 were able to remember that he was out of the country in public eye for a period of time, officially holidaying, there we go, with his then girlfriend Jane Asher.
In Scotland, right?
Yep. Which may have been some accidental muddling of the facts that have led the rumors to being started.
But there's all these bits and pieces where there was an accident, and then all of a sudden he's gone, so I can kind of see where people would.
Yeah. Then he does come back, and he's got a cut to his lip. And so I think he had a scar on his lip after that.
Yeah.
So people have done facial analysis of all four Beatles from 1964 and 1967. John, George, and Ringo's faces, when overlaid on top of their earlier faces, were a complete match, but of course not Paul McCartney. His face is different from 1964 and 1967. The older Paul's face is longer and has a different shaped face and chin than the pictures from 1964. The two faces do not match. Sure, upon casual scrutiny, he could be just an older version of his earlier self, but from a forensic study, the two faces are not a match. People say heights varied wildly from earlier Paul to Fall, or the new Paul, in relation to his bandmates. Paul had in fact experienced that accident on his moped in 65, and that leading to that scar, people assumed that was the facial reconstruction for the new Paul. So you can see, like Kurt said, all these things that have happened with Paul being out of the country, him coming back and looking a little bit older. I mean, you can see their early Beatlemania where they were like young kids with that mop top hair, to where after possibly ingesting some chemicals,
sure,
they started to get a little bit more older looking.
Yeah,
and they had beards.
Well, they're touring all the time, and so I'm sure it was stress.
Yeah, they ended up with long hair, beards. I mean, The
1969 rumors were compounded by the fact that Paul was laying low and not immediately available for comment again, reacting in sadness and frustration by the appointment of Alan Klein to handle Apple Corps, which was the Beatles' management company affairs, and John Lennon's private announcement that he was leaving the Beatles. Paul and Linda McCartney had also welcomed daughter Mary in August, and on Wednesday, October 22nd, this was the subject of more than 100 newspaper stories. It made the network evening news on ABC that night and the next. And while NBC News ended with a report on the 23rd in which John Chancellor said that Paul might or might not be dead, both before ABC and NBC's broadcast news photos of Paul McCartney that had been transmitted by the AP on Wednesday night.
It's not going to help when you have him saying he could be dead.
Yep. McCartney, who had gone on vacation on a Scottish farm, was forced to give interviews and pose for photos over the course of the next 5 years for the Glasgow Herald, Life magazine, which more than a week later put Paul McCartney and his family on the cover with the headline, "Paul is Still With Us," and the BBC, Financial Times, Liverpool Daily Post, and a Portland, Oregon radio station also jumped on the Paul is dead rumors. Even as the controversy waned, WOR-TV in New York broadcast a 1-hour special at the end of November with attorney F. Lee Bailey leading the inquiry. A great quote from Paul during this interview was, "Rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated. However," he continued, "if I was dead, I'm sure I'd be the last to know." And as the rumor spread, which was easy to do without the inventions of the internet and social media, neither fan nor any of the hysteria started to subdue. People began to look at their songs, their artwork, their interviews, and any of its members for clues. Many people believe this is the one and possibly the very first conspiracy theory to gain worldwide traction and maybe set the bar for what was to become all these years later.
No, I totally get that. Because this was the first one that kind of went viral almost. Well, the Kennedy stuff too, the Kennedy assassination, but I feel like this one went viral in a different way.
So let's start with some of the quote-unquote clues. The iconic Abbey Road cover art. For those of you that don't know,
Yeah.
you remember that one?
I do. I'm going to hold it up to the camera, too. Not that they can see that.
Such a classic album cover, too.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's the Abbey Road cover art. Although we know now that there were several outtakes and tries at the scene, people did not know this back then. Over-analysis of the picture is rampant. First off, people realized Paul wasn't wearing shoes. So Paul wasn't wearing shoes. This made them realize that the scene is a sort of recreation of a burial scene. The order in which the four Beatles were arranged were also deemed significant. John Lennon, bearded and dressed in white, represents a priest or even Jesus. Ringo Starr in a black suit was the Undertaker. George Harrison's jeans and denim shirt made him the gravedigger. And of course, Paul McCartney was the corpse. His eyes were closed, and he wasn't wearing shoes like a buried body would. Also in the image, Paul was out of step with the other bandmates and held a cigarette in his right hand, despite being left-handed. And over his shoulder was a Volkswagen Beetle with a license plate that read 28IF, interpreted as 28 if, i.e. McCartney would have been 28 if he lived, although he actually would have been 27.
But
it feels like a lot of people reading into stuff. This is just the style at that time.
But it's just weird to me to think of, like, supposedly say he did die and they did this. Why would they put clues that he was? It's like the whole thing about the New World Order and Illuminati that purposely put clues on money that they exist. It's like, why?
I think that they thought that they weren't happy with the replacement, so they couldn't come out and say that Paul was dead and we got a replacement. So the best they could do was lead clues.
Was to hint that he was dead?
Yeah. Again, if you want to go on YouTube for this one, the music video for Magical Mystery Tour, all the Beatles are wearing white suits with red carnations except Paul, who's wearing a white suit, but his flower is black, which is an omen of death. The Magical Mystery Tour album cover artwork portrays the band in costumes dressed as animals, 3 of which are stood shoulder to shoulder dressed in white, fur, quote-unquote fur, while the one member, Paul, who's dressed as a walrus, appears separate from the others dressed all in black, a color, again, associated with mourning and death. The actual Magical Mystery Tour art showed the word Beatles written in the stars, which if you held up to a mirror, apparently gave you the number for a London mortuary. Another image from that album shows Ringo's drumhead apparently saying, "Love the 3 Beatles." So 3, the original 3 and not the fake Paul.
Some of these I've never heard before, and I know a lot of these, but some of these I've never heard before.
While next to the drum kit are McCartney's boots covered in what appear to be bloodstains. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Such a good album. Such an amazingly good album.
So this is the cover for Sgt. Pepper's.
Of course, I've seen this before, but I don't know
studied it.
Haven't really analyzed it in this way, but okay.
Many people see this cover as an homage to Paul's funeral. All the onlookers are there to pay their respects, and the flowers are laid out similar to a funeral's. If you put the drum in the front there up to a mirror so you can kind of get an inverted view and you fold it together, you get a secret message which says 11-9 he die with an arrow pointing to Paul McCartney. We'll take a break for a second.
Because I think they had that in that video you're going to mention a little later, because they showed what it looks like. I thought it was kind of a stretch.
It just feels like such a stretch. Like, who's actually
11-9 he died.
I see it. It's there, but to me, again, that just feels like a weird.
Like how
Stretch.
much studying do you have to do on this thing? Do you have to bring?
Oh,
a
what's
mirror?
11/9? The date he allegedly died.
That was the date where he had gotten that car
Okay.
accident to begin.
Chris is not buying it, I think.
This is the back cover. You can see George can be seen with his finger pointing to some lyrics, which is right there. If you can see that.
Mm-hmm.
The lyrics he's pointing at are Wednesday morning at 5 o'clock, the day begins. Again, Wednesday, November 9th at 5 o'clock, Paul had died.
Of course, Paul's the only one facing
Yeah,
away.
that's a big
He's
one.
the only one facing the other way. On the right side of the album is a creepy-looking doll, and right next to it is a driving glove that he was known to wear, and it appears to be covered in blood as well. I didn't take a picture of that one. On the other side of the doll is a white car, maybe the Austin Healey, and the inside appears to be a vivid red, blood maybe. Also on Sgt. Pepper, a mysterious hand is held over the head of Paul McCartney, which many believe is an ancient death symbol of either the Greeks or the American Indians. So you can kind of see.
Yeah, there's a hand extended right over his head,
There's a hand going like this.
which is a symbol of
My
death.
glasses. Where's the hand? Oh,
Right over
yeah,
Paul's
I
head.
see. I mean, I think of a priest.
Yeah.
Priests were always interesting.
Paul is wearing a black armband. The letters on it are OPD, which people mean officially pronounced dead, but in actuality, it's a badge from the Ontario Provincial Police.
Yep.
I was gonna say I don't even see it actually. The armband.
Yeah, it
You'd
would have to be
look at
zoomed
You'd
in.
have to look at like
Okay.
an actual album cover. That one.
Yeah. I'll get to that one. There's a yesterday and today cover, not the original one. If you remember the original one, they had a bunch of like babies,
Like dead doll, like
yeah,
dolls.
like dolls that were all.
And meat.
I don't remember that. And meat.
It was really disturbing. Yeah.
So then they thought it might not go over so well, so they changed that one. Now it shows Paul separated from the band and in a chest, or could it represent a coffin? So now they dig into some of the songs. A trend at the time was called backmasking, the idea of adding deliberate messages in songs if it was played backwards, something that the Beatles were kind of known for. John Lennon was particularly vocal about his annoyance of people who read too much into the lyrics of Beatles songs, and in response wrote the song Glass Onion in 1968 to purposely confuse the culprits. Ironically, the Paul is dead conspiracy theorists took these lyrics to be an admittance of Paul's death, particularly the lyrics, well, here's another clue for you all, the walrus was Paul. So the song I Am the Walrus, the phrases bury my body and oh untimely death, which appeared at the end of the I Am the Walrus song, can be heard, with both of those snippets being taken from a BBC production of King Lear, completely randomly and just put into the song.
Yeah, if you turn up the volume towards the end, you can hear that. You can hear "Oh, Untimely Death," but it was like a radio broadcast of the King Lear.
But again, if you think he did die, you're reading into all these things in your lyrics to prove you're correct with your conspiracy theories.
All of this stuff is that.
Yeah.
In my
And
opinion.
I'm sure if you take any random band, we'll just say Metallica for no reason, that you hear the rumors that one of the people died and they replaced them, you could go back into their lyrics
Oh, for
or their
sure.
album
Find stuff
cover
in
and
the
find
one,
stuff.
find stuff in the
Yeah.
one video and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the song, the lyrics are, I don't really like to stop the show, but I thought you might like to know that the singer's going to sing a song and he wants you all to sing along. So let me introduce to you the one and only Billy Shears and Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. So William Shears, or William Shears Campbell, was the fake Paul, and in the song they actually address the word Billy Shears, but the whole concept of Sgt. Pepper's band was for the Beatles to make music as if they were this fictional band, which allowed them to write songs they may not have made as the Beatles. At least that was the basic premise for the record. It was basically abandoned by the time they reached the B-side, though, and Billy Shears is supposed to be Ringo Starr's made-up name for the new band, the fake band.
It's a weird coincidence, though.
Yeah, and that's the only part. He's the only one that's ever been named, and that he got an alias. None of the other bands ever came up with one yet, and they scrapped it so early on that they just left that part in the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band song. So that's where Billy Shears kind of also made people think they were onto something. Again, I don't know. I'm So Tired, the song.
This one is weird because there is something there, but it's hard to decipher it.
Yeah, at the end you can hear what appears to be John Lennon muttering something. When the spot is either played in reverse or slowed down, you can kind of hear Paul is dead man. Paul is a dead man. Miss him, miss him, miss him. So again, Kurt and I, when we were younger,
We had a cassette tape.
we had a couple cassette tapes of backmasking stuff. There was a book
Yeah.
I think we had on backmasking, so we knew kind of all
I've
about
always been
this.
fascinated with backwards messages in music. I still am to this day. But I've heard this several times, and it's hard to say what it's like. Somebody muttering something, and I can kind of hear where they I can see where they
It's
hear.
like an EVP.
Yeah, where they hear Paul's a dead man, miss him, miss him, miss him. But
But
it's
if you
not.
came up with something else and said that's what it said, that's what
Yeah,
everyone would
yeah.
hear.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other bands that were listed in that book that we read.
Led
Pink
Zeppelin,
Floyd.
Stairway to Heaven, supposed to have
Pink
a ton.
Floyd had some.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the other things that bands that you wouldn't normally think.
No,
would
but
be
like
in
you
there.
said earlier, they did. Like in the song Rain, like one of the whole stanzas is backwards, is reverse. So they did mess around with backwards messages, so it wouldn't be anything for them to sneak in a backwards message.
The song "Strawberry Fields" again at
I
the
was
end.
just thinking about that.
At at the end, you can hear John Lennon's voice says, "I buried Paul."
You know what he supposed know what they say that they're saying.
Yeah, it's actually
Cranberry sauce. Yeah.
So,
Well,
Revolution.
in that song, just the way that there's like effect that they use
A
at
weird
the end
ant-
where
yeah,
it sounds
yeah.
like they're actually playing music backwards.
Yeah. Yep.
Revolution number 9 has the words "Turn me on, dead man." Why that would be there, I don't know.
Because that's number 9 reversed. When you play the song and you hear them say, because they
Number
repeat
9,
number nine.
number 9.
It's a horrible song. It just sucks. But when you play it backwards, the number 9 turns into "Turn Me On, Dead Man," which was believed to be towards Paul McCartney, but then they also think that influenced Charles Manson with the Helter Skelter killings.
The song "Octopus Garden" is British Navy slang for a graveyard. "A Day in the Life," the song. The character in the song dies in a car crash, and the line is, "He blew his mind out in a car," which is supposed to be a reference to the car crash Paul McCartney had and lost his life in. So what did some of the other band members say? Early on, the band was initially bewildered and somewhat annoyed by the story's refusal to die away. There is evidence that the group members themselves found it kind of amusing at first. George Harrison was disparaging of the idea later, stating that the rumors are too stupid to bother denying. That didn't stop Lennon, though, who clearly saw the funnier side of things, replying in 1969 to, quote, "It's a lot of nonsense. Paul McCartney couldn't die without the world knowing it. The same as he couldn't get married without the world knowing it. It's impossible. He can't go on holiday without the world knowing it. It's just insanity, but it's a great plug for Abbey Road."
So he was kind of embracing it.
Yeah. Lennon's 1970 interview with Rolling Stone, the Beatle was more firm when he beat down the rumors in his usual manner. Quote, "I don't know where that started. That was barmy." Barmy.
That was barmy.
I don't know, as much as about me. No, that was all bullshit. The funny thing was made up. We never went for anything like that. We did put a few funny things in, It would be things like a beat missing or something like that. See if anyone noticed. I know we used to have a few things, but nothing that could be interpreted like that, unquote.
Mm-hmm.
So basically he's saying that they did put some funny things and some different things in their songs to see if people would notice, because he knew how much people were looking into the suggestions that there were hidden meanings and messages in the songs and the art.
Like in "Hey Jude," somebody swears. I don't remember what they say, but I think it's "Hey Jude." But I was reading a thing about Beatles song trivia recently.
I also think that, again, Chemicals, they were just experimenting with different kinds of music instruments, lyrics. I think it was just a product of who they were at that time and experimentation.
Yeah, you can tell I think they went to India
Yeah, because
And
then
they
with the
came
sitar.
back. They started playing with sitars
Yeah.
and different kind of Indian music. And
Ravi
So, yeah,
Shankar,
yeah.
isn't that who they were
Yep.
like?
yeah,
Yep.
everything just influenced them and sounds different than what they were used to.
Mm-hmm.
So was this the era of misinformation that began what we have now? Being honest about it, maybe the clues were a game, not only for the people who crafted them, but also for the rest of us as well. That's why when the interviews piled up, Paul insisted he was alive. Many shifted easily into a twist on the original conspiracy that Paul was alive, the Beatles had been playing with us, littering those clues across all those albums. A 2013 poll on various, quote, conspiracy theories found that the Paul is dead thing had faded. Just 5% of respondents believed it, behind the faked moon landing at 7%, and ahead of the idea that the world is controlled by shape-shifting reptilians at 4%. So this is an article from the Columbia Journalism Review titled, "So What's the Point of All of This?" Maybe one way to put this misinformation and disinformation, as with one of its leading purveyors, needs to be seriously but not literally. Some misinformation, even some disinformation, with the difference being intentionality on the part of the creator, is shared and savored mostly for its entertainment value. We really don't think Paul is dead. We just love finding the clues. We don't think that William Shears Crawford, or Billy Shears wrote Blackbird, Let It Be, and Hey Jude, but most do recall the ambiguity of the October 1969 conspiracy fondly.
I get that. You don't necessarily have to believe he's dead to have fun finding clues that he's dead.
Yeah.
But then there are people that take it too seriously.
So continuing the article, of course, if people aren't taking misinformation literally, all the factual refutation and fact-checking in the world may not turn them away from it. That's not a subtle plug for abandoning truth or facts or for giving up on fact-checking, but it was a suggestion that confronting misinformation may be more complicated than we sometimes acknowledge and may require understanding not only of what's being transmitted when, where, and why, but to who and by whom, but also how it's being received. So sometimes it may be beneficial to use a broader range of tactics in response to misinformation. Empathizing with, quote, believers, and at least up to a point, may start them on a path from error or fantasy. Paul is Dead 2.0, the version in which the hoax was being perpetrated by rather than on the Beatles. So that was that quote. And I think you can correlate that to kind of the conspiracy theories that are going on now.
I think if the Earth is flat.
The Earth is flat, the 9/11 stuff, the New World Order stuff. There's always a hint of truth, but it's always misinformation or it's spun in a certain way. And then when you try to bring up
driving an
facts,
agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not to get political too, but you could also go with kind of the current situation where you have alternate facts. And when you try to paint somebody into a corner, they just raise their voice and yell over you to not let you get your version out. In 2010, a documentary.
I told you to watch this.
Yeah.
I watched it one night. It was that was 2 hours and a half. I'll never get back.
Yeah. A documentary was released called Paul McCartney Really Is Dead. It's on Tubi, if anyone has Tubi, or I think Tubi's free.
Yeah, Tubi's free.
So you should be able to watch it if you want.
That's where I watched it.
Although I do think it's kind of horse manure.
Horse hockey?
Yep. I don't know if it was meant to be a joke or mockumentary or what, but it insinuates that almost every picture taken of the band, every lyric, all the album art, and every interview tries to simultaneously nudge and hit you over the head to prove that fans to prove that Paul had died. Apparently, George Harrison was on his deathbed and sent in this as a confession. He was stabbed by an attacker in 1999 as well, and this was the reason why he kind of gave to get this rumor out. So
Who was stabbed by an attacker?
George Harrison was stabbed several times
I don't remember that.
broke into his house and stabbed him several times. The confession was that all Paul is dead rumors were true, and he wanted to be the whistleblower. There is no evidence that the voice on any of the tapes that were sent in is George Harrison, and many of the facts in the documentary are false, misleading, or both.
Yeah, it's somebody doing a George Harrison impression, it sounds like. But I really thought it was like a mockumentary, and at the end they were going to say that, but they didn't. It was like kind of played legit, and I think the guy that did the documentary swears that was George Harrison confessing that Paul had died and had multiple facial surgeries. And it's if you're into this, it's worth a watch. But
Yeah, I mean,
take it with a grain of salt.
I gave you most of the popular and most well-rounded lyrics and artwork. This one goes into, like I said, almost every single lyric points to something. Every single artwork, interview, whatever, points to Paul being dead. And it's just a little bit hard to swallow.
Yep.
So, in wrapping up, yes, the whole Paul is dead rumors were absurd. So why did it create such a stir? It may have had something to do with the public's growing awareness that all was not well with the Beatles. It explained why the Beatles had stopped touring. Their final concert had been in San Francisco in August 29, 1966. Why their music appearances had changed so dramatically in both physical and lyrical since the late 60s, and why the Beatles seemed to be drifting apart. In his statement in Life magazine, Paul declared that he wanted to, quote, go on making good music, but the Beatle thing is over. It had been exploded by what we had done and partly by other people, unquote.
Good.
That is the Paul is dead rumors.
That
from
goes
the
into
late
the thing
60s.
we've talked about in the past on here where people get so annoyed that their band changes their sound that you would rather ascribe it to something like this rather than just that they changed.
Yeah, they
you
grew
know,
up
like
a
if
little.
something's wrong going on with the Beatles, you'd rather that Paul McCartney was dead than just have him do a boring breakup, you know. And I do think a lot of this was people just doing it for fun, like looking for clues for fun. But again, there's going to be a percentage that takes this seriously, and there's still people to this day that think that Paul McCartney was fake, that he was replaced, you know. And they say one of the things that proves it is that the real Paul McCartney would have never done his Christmas song, Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas Time, that people hate. But I don't. I think it still looks like Paul McCartney. But then they said
that was
there
my
were
biggest thing too.
multiple.
Is that it looks like what I remember him, and then looking at the early videos, it still looks like him, but you know he just got older. So
Yeah, but that being said, I could see them freaking out if Paul McCartney had, if one of the Beatles had died. With as big as they were, it would have been bad.
So I have a little bit of a theory too about why he's often set apart or slightly different than everyone else in photos and whatever. And I think to some people, Paul was kind of the leader of the band. I realize him and John had kind of equal parts in songwriting and singing.
Yeah.
But I feel like Paul was really seen as the leader of the band. And any band you've ever seen, the lead singer frontman is always set apart from everybody else.
I think he was seen as the face of the band.
Yeah.
Kind of.
So it makes sense to me that he would be kind of not featured, but set apart from everybody else in photos and things like that.
They were also saying that he was like the best musician, that they often joked that Ringo Starr was the second best drummer in the band. That Paul was actually
really?
Paul was
Better
actually
drummer.
the better drummer.
I like Ringo. He gets so much crap.
Yeah, but
Right?
he couldn't play both instruments, so they had just Ringo there basically to play the drums. But
Yeah.
rumors are that Paul was a better drummer than Ringo even was.
Also, he's alive and well, allegedly, and he has children. Like, do you think everybody would just perpetuate this lie
By
if
now
he
they
wasn't
would've-
actually
No, by
Paul
now-
McCartney?
By now they would have been like, hey,
Yeah.
you know, it's the same with your story. It's like if that was if your story was true, you would have think that would have came out by now.
For sure.
Good job, Corey.
Yeah, that was good.
I love the Paul is dead thing, but I love it from a fun standpoint where it's a cool, but I don't really buy that he died. So my story, I wanted to get away from like the rock because they're both doing rock. My story is about the Dorabella Cipher, which I've always thought was a really cool.
I've never even heard of this.
It's interesting, but after doing this, like I love this story. I think this story is so cool, and I became kind of fascinated with this guy. And I don't like classical music, but I guess I don't really listen to a lot of classical music, so I'm not at liberty to really say whether or not I like it, I guess. But I'm fascinated by this. So most of my story comes from 4 different websites: worldhistory.org, Wikipedia, a discoveryuk.com article,
And Reddit.
and I did not look up anything on Reddit for
Wow.
this. Yeah. And the www.60out.com article. So this is about Edward William Elgar. Elgar. I think it's I'm just going to say Elgar. It could be Elgar. But it's about Edward William Elgar. Edward was born on June 2nd, 1857 in Worcestershire, England. While Edward was still an infant,
I'm not sure that's how it's pronounced.
Worcester?
isn't it Worcestershire?
We always say Shire, and
Oh my
we get
God.
made fun
I
of.
forgot about that.
It's not the Shire from the Lord of the Rings. I think it's Shire.
Yeah, but what is it? It's the same as Worcestershire sauce.
Worcestershire.
Is it Worcestershire? Okay, I'm gonna skip over that word because I don't like it. In Worcestershire sauce, England. While Edward was still an infant, the family moved to nearby Worcester. That one I got right.
Yeah.
That one I got right. His father was an organist at the local church, tuned pianos, and owned a music shop, so young Edward was surrounded by music on most days. Edward learned the violin, his only formal musical education, and played in the local orchestra. He progressed to playing in a chamber group, and by his early 20s, after a brief stint as a clerk in a solicitor's office, he was confident enough to try to forge a career in music. Edward played, conducted, and taught the violin, and he also taught himself composition using books, and through experimentation, he acquired a knowledge of counterpoint and orchestration. Like, I don't really know what counterpoint is. I know that a lot of our listeners are music people, but it makes me kind of want to look into music because I found this all like so fascinating. I really did.
I might be wrong, but I think counterpoint is when you have a certain style of music, it stops, and then a completely different style of music starts.
Okay.
So you have point and counterpoint.
I should know this because I was a music major.
Were you really? And you don't know this?
Mm-mm.
No.
I actually hated music theory.
Part of me thinks I would like music theory.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
very technical.
Yeah, that was like that was when I took astronomy. I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun.
It's all math.
Wasn't, yeah, it wasn't fun. In 1882, he joined the orchestra of William Stockley in Birmingham. He received more valuable experience at the Worcester Three Choirs Festival of 1884, where he played in the orchestra, which was conducted by a visiting Antonin Dvorak, who I've actually heard of. Like, he's a famous conductor. Elgar was fond of fishing, golf, cycling, horse racing, fox hunting, walking with his dogs, and kite flying. He was a big fan of the Wolverhampton Wanderers football team. He loved crossword puzzles and was an avid doodler. He epitomized early 20th century England.
An avid doodler.
He was an avid doodler. In 1889, Elgar married one of his piano pupils, Alice Roberts. Alice was 9 years older than Elgar, and after a honeymoon on the Isle of Wight, she persuaded him to move to London, where he could more easily attract the attention of music directors and publishers. Elgar had a Sevillana orchestra piece performed at the Crystal Palace in 1884, but it did not kickstart his career as a composer. Still needing to teach music to make ends meet, Elgar once described his occupation as, quote, like turning a grindstone with a dislocated shoulder. He had to wait several more years for his breakthrough, which finally came in 1890 with his Froissart Overture. I'm pronouncing these so wrong. Froissart? With his Froissart Overture. The Classical Music Encyclopedia describes the Froissart Overture as, quote, a work entirely characteristic in its chivalrous panache, which I think people have said about our podcast.
For sure.
Edward established himself as a composer of originality, and I think this is so cool. Elgar established himself as a composer of originality with his enigma variations, also known as variations on an original theme. The orchestral work is composed of 14 variations on a theme, each variation meant to portray a personal friend of Edward's, including his wife. The subtitle Enigma derives from the inability of anyone to positively identify the counterpoint tune which runs through the 14 pieces. The 11th Enigma variation is curious as it uses the instrument the triangle to suggest the dog tag on the collar of a bulldog who shakes himself dry after a swim in the river, the dog belonging to his friend G.W. Sinclair, the organist at Hereford Cathedral. So all these orchestral pieces that he wrote in this Enigma variation all are a friend of his or a relative of his. Like, I would write one called Corey, and it would be like, but he wrote one about his friends, and the triangle represents his dog shaking off after the river. So I just think that's super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Elgar was now recognized as one of the country's finest ever composers. In 1900, he was awarded an honorary doctorate from the University of Cambridge, and later there would be more honorary degrees, including Oxford and Yale. what do I have to do to get an honorary degree from Yale?
Are they
Because
good for anything?
Probably not, but I would love an honorary degree from somewhere.
You got to send in the podcast.
Yeah, I'm sure Yale will jump right on that.
We'll get the honorary LTC degree.
LTC degree. Elgar was now recognized as, well, I just read that. The icing on his recognition cake came in 1902. Elgar wrote his coronation ode, which was to be performed in June of 1902 at London's Covent Garden celebration with King Edward VII in attendance. However, the shindig was cancelled due to the king's ill health. The ode finally got its premiere at the Sheffield Festival the next October. Royal approval of Edward's work came in 1904 when he was knighted. I would love to be knighted too, but I don't think I can be knighted because I'm not British.
Would I have to call you Sir Kurt
Sir
then?
Kurt. You guys call me Sir Kurt. The finale of his coronation ode had been adapted from a piece that Elgar wrote back in 1901 called Pomp and Circumstance, which is best known as
The Graduation Walk.
or Randy Macho Man Savage's ring music that he
No
comes
way,
out to.
really?
Yes. But it is the graduation walk, you know. I could hum it for you, but I'm not going to hum it for you. But when you think of a graduation theme, that's what Pomp and Circumstance is. And then he's responsible for that, which I didn't really know before and I thought was really cool. In 1924, he was appointed Master of the King's Music, and in 1931, he was made a baronet. Edward died of cancer in Worcester on February 23rd, 1934, and was buried next to his wife, Alice. And that brings us to Dora Penny, who I have a crush on, even though I know absolutely nothing about her, but I just do.
It's very curt of you.
It is very curt of me. Dora Penny was the daughter of the Reverend Alfred Penny of Wolverhampton. Dora's mother died in February 1874, 6 days after giving birth to Dora, which is sad. In 1895, Dora's father remarried, and Dora's stepmother was a good friend of Alice Elgar, Edward's wife. In July of 1897, the Penny family invited Edward and Alice to stay at their rectory for a few days in Wolverhampton. Edward was a 40-year-old music teacher at this point and had yet to become a successful composer. Dora was 23 years old, almost 17 years younger than Edward. Edward and Dora became close friends and stayed close for the rest of the composer's life. Edward named Variation 10 of his Enigma variations, quote, Dorabella, as a dedication to Dora Penny. And that, you know, like, I think of Miranda and I. Like, Miranda, like, my best friend, like, we met at the factory and became best friends when I was in my early 40s and she had literally just turned 18, you know, but it was just one of those situations where it's just like perfect, you know. So I get that, but a lot of people from stuff I read said that was weird that they were that close, but I don't think it was. On returning after a visit in July 1897, Alice wrote a thank you letter to the Penny family. Edward stuck a note into the envelope that had cryptic writing on it with the words, quote, Miss Penny on the back of the note. And there's a lot of uncertainty whether his wife knew that he put this piece of paper in the envelope or if she didn't know. Like, I don't know. This note lay in a drawer for 40 years and finally became known when Dora had it reproduced in her memoirs titled, quote, Edward Elgar, Memories of a Variation, published in 1937. Subsequently, the original note was lost. Dora claimed that she had never been able to read the note, which she assumed to be a cipher message. Dora died at the age of 94 in 1964. So that's not that long ago, really. But I don't know if you saw what it looks like. Do you know what the Dorabella Cipher looks like?
Yeah.
No.
You guys talk while I look it up here.
I think it's just like a bunch of scribbles almost.
It is.
It's hard
Oh,
to
you
even-
used it as a picture for this teaser.
Yes.
Okay. Like, it's like squiggly lines, kind of curly cues, and
Yeah, can't even tell that it's any kind of cipher.
it looks like someone's practicing doodling.
Yeah. Well,
And he was
doodler.
an avid
He was
doodler.
an avid doodler.
He was an avid doodler.
A hobby that is slowly.
That's probably what it is. It's probably just some doodles and then.
We'll get to that.
Oh,
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 Corey got
I
curted.
got curded.
Yeah, this is it right here. On the top. That's a Dorabella cipher.
Yeah.
It's squiggles. It's all squiggles turned one way, turned this way.
Symbols a little bit. Yeah.
So this was slipped into her envelope, and he put this in the envelope, the thank you card that went to her, And she had no idea what this was. She stuck it in her drawer. And then when she produced her memoir, she put this in there and said she was never able to decipher this. So from the 60out.com article, it says, quote, "This note was no ordinary correspondence. It was the Dorabella Cipher, a series of 87 seemingly random symbols arranged in 3 lines. The characters themselves are a unique blend of geometric shapes, some resembling musical notation, others evoking ancient scripts. Some puzzlers even think that each symbol is a version of an E playing on Elgar's first initial. Adding to the intrigue, Elgar included a brief musical quotation beneath the cipher, often referred to as the Liszt fragment, and that's Liszt as in L-I-S-Z-T. The Liszt fragment. This fragment, seemingly unrelated to the cipher itself, consists of a few bars of music possibly taken from a work by Franz Liszt. Its presence has sparked speculation about its connection to the cipher's meaning, with some suggesting it might be a musical clue or a hidden message in itself. Edward's fascination with puzzles and codes is well documented. He was a member of the London Cipher Club and often incorporated hidden messages into his compositions. For example, his famous Enigma variations are themselves a musical puzzle, with each variation based on the musical personality of a friend, with a hidden theme that has never been definitively identified. Additionally, Elgar incorporated musical cryptograms, hidden messages spelled out by the initial letters of notes, into several of his works. This love of puzzles adds a layer of complexity to the Dorabella cipher, leaving us to wonder whether it's a playful diversion, a coded musical message, or something more personal. From the Discovery article, quote, "What appears at first glance to be a whimsical doodle has puzzled experts, cryptographers, mathematicians, and amateur sleuths for over a century, and the true meaning behind these curious scribblings remains unknown. The thank you letter itself is entirely unremarkable except for this cryptic addition, which has sparked endless speculation and debate." Why are the Elgar symbols so enigmatic? Are they musical by nature? Is the Dorabella code a love letter, a hidden message, or a joke with no punchline? Or is it, as some have suggested, nothing more than an elaborate hoax designed to deliberately mislead anyone who tries to decipher it? The code, if that's what it is a cryptic sequence of 87 similar-looking symbols arranged neatly in 3 rows. Each symbol consists of a series of loops or curved lines that resembles a series of E-shapes, rotated C's, or upturned 3's, oriented in various directions. After the 5th character on the 3rd line, a small dot, possibly a full stop, appears. These symbols appear to have been deliberately chosen and carefully written, perhaps suggesting an intentional code rather than random scribblings. To Edward, mystery symbols like this weren't unusual. His love of ciphers, codes, and puzzles was well known, and in his 1898 work, The Enigma Variations, the overall theme has left people guessing for well over a century. He has said, quote, "The enigma I will not explain. Its dark saying must be left unguessed." The music has been forensically dissected, semi-quaver by semi-quaver, but there's still no conclusive answer as to what it might be. Indeed, similar symbol to those in the Dorabella Code also appeared in an Elgar annotated concert program from 1886, over a decade before the Dorabella cipher. They also appeared in one of Edward's notebooks from the 1920s in an effort to solve a 25-year-old cryptogram puzzle set in Pall Mall magazine. So Pall Mall cigarettes.
Pall Mall had a magazine?
They had a magazine.
They had a whole
back
magazine.
Then. Yep.
Wow.
What do Elgar's symbols represent? Put simply, no one knows. The Dorabella cipher has baffled everyone who's tried to decipher it using all kinds of code-breaking tactics, including substitution and pigpen ciphers, as well as frequency analysis, computer algorithms that recognize complex patterns, and even artificial intelligence.
Is that where the word decipher came from?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yet, so far, all efforts, regardless of technical sophistication, are nothing more than speculative, and none have been accepted by the wider cryptographic community. A 1970 effort from noted Shakespeare scholar and musicologist Eric Sams resulted in this strange sentence claiming that the additional letters were implied by phonetic shorthand. His solution goes, quote, starts larks. It's chaotic, but a cloak obscures my new letters. A, B below. I own the dark. Makes E sigh when you are too long gone. So much of this reminds me of like the Zodiac ciphers where, and this gets into like armchair treasure hunting, which I'm fascinated with, but at the same time, there's a weird psychology about it where if you think you solved it,
Yeah.
you're not going to listen to anybody
Right.
else. So all these people think that their solve is the correct one. Tim Roberts, on the other hand, offers the following solution using a simple substitution cipher. His goes, quote, P.S. Now droop beige weeds set in it. Pure idiocy. One entire bed. Luigi CCI Bunnud lovingly turned into Studio 2.
Sure.
Yep.
Equally as nonsensical as the first one.
In 2011, a Canadian named Richard Henderson, again using a simple substitution cipher, reckoned he'd cracked it with this effort. Quote, Why am I very sad, Belle? I sag as we see roses do. E.E. is ever fond of you, Dora. I know I pen one I love, all of my affection.
That's the most
closest.
Yeah.
The next one I love. The next one I
Okay.
actually wish was it because I like it. And in 2020, a well-known European classical music journal called Musical Opinion, Wayne Packwood suggests that he'd finally found the solution to the Elgar code, although it's far from universally accepted. His solution goes, quote, A woman is like chess. One has to make many sacrifices for its queen. It is victory she commands, not do better. I like that. Like, I kind of
Also
wish,
makes
I kinda,
sense.
Yeah, I kind of wish that was it. In 2007, to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Elgar's birth, the Elgar Society organized a Dorabella Cipher competition, and despite some entries containing, quote, some impressively ambitious and thoughtful analysis, most, they said, were little more than, quote, a disconnected chain of bizarre utterances. So theories.
The first ones were definitely a disconnected
Yeah,
chain of bizarre
yeah,
utterances.
Yep. Theories. The seemingly unbreakable code has given rise to several theories, each attempting to unravel the true nature of this strange sequence of symbols. One theory, it's a simple substitution cipher. It could be a simple substitution code where each symbol represents a letter of the alphabet. Many have tried this approach, assuming that it might be an anagram, a letter substitution, or a phonetic transcription, but no one has yet produced a definitive solution. The assumption, perhaps, is that Elgar, known for his love of puzzles and ciphers, created this code as a playful challenge for Dora.
Has anyone put it into a computer?
Yeah, and they can't get anything. Composer and historian Kevin Jones advanced one view, saying, quote, Dora's father had just returned from Malaysia? I have no idea where that is. Malaysia, where he had been a missionary for many years.
It's not Malaysia.
No, that's what it says. Melanesa. Malaysia. Where he had been a missionary for several years. Fascinated by local language and culture, he possessed a few traditional talismans decorated with arcane glyphs. Perhaps such an item surfaced as a conversation piece during the Elgar's week in Wolverhampton. And if Dora recalled this when writing her memoirs, it might account for the fact that the coded message was referred to as, quote, an inscription when communicating about the cipher many years later. Another theory is something called steganography, which is the practice of concealing information within another message or physical object to avoid detection. The most common way people do that is with photographs. Like, you can take a picture. I can send you guys a picture of the Strange Sessions logo, but I can put stuff in there so that it will contain a message inside the actual data. Did Elgar hide his message not through direct substitution, but through musical notation or a visual code? Another theory is musical interpretations. Some have attempted to transcribe the symbols into musical notation, hoping to uncover a hidden melody. And this reminds me of the Last Supper, where people took the bread on the table and somebody noticed that if you put musical notes where the bread is, it makes like a little song, and they wonder if that's what was hidden in it. But that's kind of what this reminds me of. Others have explored the possibility that the symbols represent rhythmic patterns or even a musical code based on a specific key or scale. The inclusion of the list fragment beneath the cipher further fuels this theory, suggesting some kind of musical connection. Another theory, to amuse and confuse. Perhaps more skeptically, it's possible that his mystery symbols are an elaborate hoax or playful doodle without any real encoded message. Elgar, well known for having a mischievous sense of humor, might have created the cipher as a lighthearted joke without it ever intending to be solved. I don't buy that one. Because he's friends with this girl and he's going to send her something that
She can't ever
she
solve.
can't ever solve. And last theory, a love letter. Elgar and Dora Penny maintained a very close relationship until he died in 1934, and some believe that the Dorabella Cipher is a personal message between the two, possibly one that would only make sense to her or within the context of their friendship. The relationship between the two, though well documented, leaves room for interpretation. Was their bond purely platonic, or did it harbor deeper feelings? Was the cipher a lighthearted gesture, or did it carry a sweeter, more profound message? Despite a century of intrigue and countless attempts at deciphering its meaning, the Dorabella Cipher remains an elusive puzzle, a testament to Edward Elgar's playful genius and the allure of unsolved mysteries. So that's my story. Like, I remember seeing this because I've always been fascinated by code, but I suck at code breaking. But I've always been fascinated by it, and I always look at like lists online of unbroken ciphers, and I always see this one. So I was happy to like look into the background of it because I really like the background of it. I really think it's a sweet story. I don't know if like. It's the same thing with the Beale cipher, too. We're going to talk about the Beale cipher at some point where there's a treasure hidden. And so many people claim that they broke the cipher and they know where it is. And it's always these weird rambling things. It's not, like Larks. It's chaotic, but a cloak obscures my new letters. I owe the dark. Make EE sigh when you are too long gone.
I'd be like, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if he sent it in for Dora...
It said for Dora, like
she would have to know either how to start to decrypt it,
right,
or she would have to know that it was actually something for her to decrypt.
So did he send this to her thinking that she would understand how to decrypt it? Because, like if I sent you something, you would know me well enough that you might be able to figure out how to decrypt it.
Yeah.
So I think maybe he was expecting that of her, and she had no idea what to do with it.
Yeah, but if it was his fascination for codes, and it's not necessarily hers.
Yeah.
So
yeah, she said she tried a couple times and then she just could never break it, so she threw it in a drawer, and to this day nobody knows.
Seems like an odd gesture, though.
It is an odd gesture, but he was an odd guy. He loved puzzles and stuff like that, and I think he just wanted her to, like I remember when Natalie and I solved one of the geocaches that nobody had solved because it was really difficult, and we solved it, and the guy that put it out said that he created it specifically for another geocacher that she was in the Coast Guard, because it referred to
like
submarines and nautical stuff. So that's what this could be, is that he probably thought she would be able to solve this, and she didn't know what to do. And now nobody knows what to do with it.
And that's even to say it was not
a code.
Just
It could have been a musical thing. He could have like made her a little melody. Like I don't know. I think it's a code, but I don't know if I think that it was a love letter, because it was very short. And I got a feeling his wife knew that he put it in the envelope and she didn't care because she knew that they were friends.
Well, it's like the Beale cipher. I know you said we were going to talk about it, but if there's 3 different ciphers. One is the location.
Yeah.
2 is the people who should get the money.
Get the treasure.
And I can't remember what the third was.
There's the location of where the treasure is buried. There's
what's in the treasure.
And
then who should get it.
And who should get it.
And then the who should get it, there wasn't enough letters for it to be the amount of people that should be getting the treasure.
Yeah.
So that might be one of those things too, where it's not long enough to actually be any kind of
message.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think it's a code, but I think it's just a very simple, it's 3 lines. It's 87 characters, so there's not that much. I don't think it's a love letter professing his love to her. But I think it's like a little inside joke that they had, that he put in a code and she just couldn't solve it. And now nobody can solve it. Yeah, because I feel like she was the only one who was familiar enough with the way he thought to solve it.
So no one tried turning it into music?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But I
Seems
think it's
kind of obvious.
Huh?
To try that.
Yeah, especially because it has the musical fragment on the bottom, which almost makes you think that he put that there to say,
like, hey, these are notes.
Make this into a tune. So I don't know. I just think this is such a fascinating story, and I think their little friendship is super cute. I don't think it was a love letter, but who knows? I don't know. But I love it. I think it's a code. I do think it's a code that will probably remain uncracked because there's not enough data there to really use computer analysis to break it. So that is my story, the Dorabella Cipher.
Sweet.
Yep.
All right, my turn.
Yep. What time are we looking at?
An hour and a half.
Oh.
Right on schedule. So I'm going to be talking about Elvis. Is Elvis dead?
Yeah, so we had one guy that's supposed to be alive that is really dead, and we have one guy that's supposed to be dead that's really alive.
Mm-hmm. So I'm, of course, going to start with some history, too. Just if you don't know who Elvis was, or his popularity. This will give you an idea. So born in Tupelo, Mississippi on January 8th, 1935, Elvis Aaron Presley and his family relocated to Memphis, Tennessee when he was 13. He began his music career just a few years later in 1954, and in 1956, his first RCA Victor single, Heartbreak Hotel, was released and became a #1 hit. Within a year, 10 million singles were sold. After a series of television appearances and chart-topping records, he quickly became one of the biggest stars of his time and was considered quite controversial given his dance moves and the fact that he was performing music that had more of an African-American sound than what other artists were recording at the time. Not long after he would enter the world of acting and would star in a string of well-known movies like Love Me Tender, Jailhouse Rock, Blue Hawaii, and Viva Las Vegas. In 1968, after 7 years of focusing solely on acting, which I didn't know he did. Like, I knew he acted.
Yeah, he was
I
in
knew
a couple
he sang.
movies.
I didn't know he stopped writing music and touring while he was acting, though. He solely focused on acting. He returned to the stage in an NBC television special aptly named Elvis, which led to a residency in Vegas and a lucrative string of tours. In 1973, he gave the first concert by a solo artist to be broadcast around the world called Aloha from Hawaii, which I've seen. I remember him kissing a lot of women in the crowd. He is one of the best-selling music artists of all time, with sales estimates ranging from 500 million records to over 1 billion worldwide. He won 3 Grammys, has been inducted into multiple music halls of fame, and he holds the record for the most RIAA certified gold and platinum albums, among many other awards and honors.
You guys both picked the heavy hitters
We
today
did.
with the
So backtracking a little bit, he was in the military. He was drafted into the Army in 1958, and it was in the military that he was introduced to amphetamines, not methamphetamines, to amphetamines.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
He also became a lifelong student of karate. I know I have memories of seeing videos of him in his full suits doing karate moves on stage. He was known as wanting to be seen as just a normal soldier like everybody else, but he donated all of his Army pay to charity. While he was serving at age 24, he met 14-year-old Priscilla Bulow. I don't know if that's how her name is pronounced. Bulow. And after a 7-year-and-a-half courtship, so she was legal, they married. And in 1960, he returned to the U.S. and was honorably discharged from the military, and that is when he started his film career. Elvis's only child, Lisa Marie, was born on February 1st, 1968.
She's dead, isn't she?
Yeah, didn't she just pass
Yeah,
away
she did.
like in the last few years? Yeah. And in the same year, he would film his comeback special, which I mentioned earlier. That's a very iconic performance. If you've ever seen him in the black leather shirt, whatever, and pants, that's what
I'm
that
not an
performance
Elvis
is.
guy. Like, I love the Beatles, but I'm not an Elvis guy.
Yeah, I don't know. I think my mom has been an Elvis fan, so I remember watching these things, not live because I wasn't alive at the time, but they would play these things reruns over the years.
You're going to talk about his appearance on the Edwards and the Ed Sullivan show too?
Well, they had a blurred from the
They had to
waist
shoot
down.
him from the waist. Waist
because of
up
his gyrating hips.
Because he was gyrating his pelvis.
I think if I ever have like a CD mix in the car, I think I always have to have Suspicious Minds on there.
That's a great
Suspicious
one.
Minds is a good song. Like
I also love Devil in Disguise.
Same thing with the Beach Boys. I don't really have any for as popular as they were.
No, but still, Good Vibrations is an amazing song.
The surf era really
God
wasn't
Only
my
Knows
thing.
is a good.
I feel like you can't listen to the Beach Boys and not smile. It's just like happy music,
Kokomo.
Yeah, Kokomo was bad.
That was so overplayed. Oh my gosh! And I remember the guys from Full House.
Yes.
By the early 70s, Elvis's marriage to Priscilla had really deteriorated, and the two divorced in 1973, and by that time, his health was seriously declining. After years of prescription drug abuse, he overdosed on barbiturates twice in that year, and spent 3 days in a coma in his hotel suite after the first overdose. Later that year, he was hospitalized from the effects of a pethidine addiction, which is Demerol. I had to Google that. Despite his addiction issues and failing health, he embarked on a crazy touring schedule in 1973, performing 168 concerts, and continued to tour just as intensely for the next several years. So while he was still touring in the late 70s, he had become grossly overweight, visibly drugged, slurring, literally using the microphone to prop himself up
Man, it was
to
a
get through
sweaty mess
concerts.
and-
Yeah.
Peanut butter and banana sandwiches. fried peanut
Fried
butter.
peanut butter and banana
sandwiches.
sandwiches.
will do
That
it to you.
sounds good,
It
actually.
is pretty good. In 1977, he was found unconscious on the bathroom floor of his Graceland mansion, and attempts to revive him failed. He was pronounced dead at Baptist Memorial Hospital at 3:30 p.m. on August 16th and was only 42.
Or was he?
Or was he? So there's a bit of controversy surrounding his death, specifically his cause of death. So Memphis medical examiner Jerry Francisco announced that the immediate cause of death was cardiac arrest and declared that, quote, drugs played no role in Presley's death. However, the autopsy was still in progress when he declared that publicly. And the autopsy showed that drug use, quote, drug use was heavily implicated in his death.
I remember the phrase straining at stool being somewhere in his death report. In other words, trying to poop.
Yeah, because everybody says he died on the toilet.
Yeah.
That actually didn't come up in here at all, just that he was found in his bathroom. The pathologist conducting the autopsy thought it possible, for instance, that he had suffered, quote, anaphylactic shock brought on by the codeine pills he had gotten from his dentist, to which he was known to have a mild allergy. Lab reports filed 2 months later strongly suggested that polypharmacy was the primary cause of death. One reported 14 drugs in Elvis's system, 10 in significant quantity.
Jeez, that's a lot of drugs.
Yeah. In 1979, forensic pathologist Cyril Wecht reviewed...
He just died too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he just died.
Cyril Wecht?
Yeah, he was a famous pathologist. He had a bunch of books where he would go over his case notes for like some of the famous cases. Like I think he did something with JFK. He did something with JonBenet Ramsey. Yeah, he just died a couple months ago.
Interesting.
We should. Would you want us to do an episode about JonBenet Ramsey?
I'm
I feel like
fascinated
I know,
by
but I
it.
feel like it's so dark.
It is dark.
Netflix documentary.
Yeah,
just-
you and I were talking
It's
about
so
that on the drive to
fascinating,
Thanksgiving about whether.
Is that new?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
The
just on
Netflix?
Netflix one. Yeah, it's from the pro JonBenet Ramsey family. I think her dad
Oh.
is the one that spearheaded it, and it's all mistakes by the police and leaks from the police to paint them in a bad light.
Within the next week, I'm gonna.
I'd like to watch that.
I'm going to put the poll up
fascinated by
for
that
the
story.
season premiere,
Oh,
so maybe I'll throw
yeah.
that in the poll in case. That's so dark. Like
It is dark,
that
but
whole thing is just
fascinating.
that one bothers me. You know.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
Okay, forensic pathologist Cyril Wecht, am I saying his name right? Wecht?
Yes.
Okay. Reviewed the reports and concluded that a combination of depressants had resulted in Presley's accidental death. Forensic historian and pathologist Michael Baden viewed the situation as complicated. Quote, Elvis had an enlarged heart for a long time. That, together with his drug habit, caused his death, but he was difficult to diagnose. It was a judgment call. The competence and ethics of two of the centrally involved medical professionals were seriously questioned. Francisco had offered a cause of death before the autopsy was complete, claimed the underlying ailment was cardiac arrhythmia, a condition that can be determined only in a living person, and denied drugs played any part in Presley's death before the toxicology results were known. Allegations of a cover-up were widespread. While a 1981 trial of Presley's main physician, George Nikopoulos,
Yeah, Dr. Nick.
exonerated him of criminal liability, the facts were startling. In the first 8 months of 1977 alone, he had prescribed more than 10,000 doses of sedatives, amphetamines, and narcotics, all in Elvis's name.
But isn't that basically what happened with Michael Jackson?
Yeah.
That he was getting that sleeping, whatever that.
It was like an
sleeping thing is?
intravenous. It
Yeah.
was like what you put people under.
Propofol.
Yeah, isn't that what you
Corey
give
knows it.
people to like have surgery?
I don't know. I take ZQL if I can't sleep.
Yeah, I think propofol was to help you with surgeries.
That's crazy. His license was suspended for 3 months.
For only 3 months.
It was permanently revoked.
Okay.
Well, this is okay. So that's in 70. Well, that's in the 70s. Now it was permanently revoked in the 1990s after the Tennessee Medical Board brought new charges of overprescription. In 1994, the Presley autopsy was reopened. Joseph Davis, who had conducted thousands of autopsies as Miami-Dade County coroner, declared at its completion, quote, "There is nothing in any of the data that supports a death from drugs. In fact, everything points to a sudden violent heart attack." More recent research has revealed that Francisco did not speak for the entire pathology team. Other staff could say nothing with confidence until they got the results back from the laboratories, if then. One of the examiners, E. Eric Muirhead, could not believe his ears. Francisco had not only presumed to speak for the hospital's team of pathologists, he had announced a conclusion they had not reached. Early on, a meticulous dissection of the body confirmed that Elvis was chronically ill with diabetes. Well, that's shocking. All those
fried
peanut
peanut butter
sandwiches.
sandwiches. He eats about as well as I do.
Yeah, glaucoma and constipation.
Well, I did hear straining at stool.
Yeah. As they proceeded, the doctor saw evidence that his body had been racked over a span of years by a large and constant stream of drugs. They had also studied his hospital records, which included 2 admissions for drug detoxification and methadone treatments. So just like a lot of back and forth. Was it drugs? Was it not drugs? Maybe he didn't die of a drug overdose, but he definitely died as a result of all the drugs that he was taking. Consuming. Yeah.
I think anybody famous, you kind of think the best of them. Mm-hmm. Or, based on the fact that he was on the toilet, people could have joked that he died while he was trying to take a poop.
Yeah.
But then you have like Mama Cass from back in the day where she died from choke on a ham sandwich.
Yeah. And that actually did not happen.
People make fun of the weights and then they try to throw something in there that at one last dig as the person's dead. And then nobody wanted to think Michael Jackson. Most of us probably assumed he was on some kind of drugs.
Yeah.
But nobody wanted to think that. And then even recently, that guy from One Direction.
Oh, yeah.
The people like, he fell off the balcony or he was pushed off the balcony. When they had all kinds of pictures of drugs on this nightstand.
On the nightstand, I saw those.
So, you want to think the best of your idols or whatever you want to call them, but they're just regular people.
Right.
And Elvis with his touring schedule and the fact that he was getting bigger, stress and anxiety and
on
the
top
way
of the
he
drugs.
eats. Yeah. It's just hard to look at that person the way that you originally did.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think a lot of that can play into why people don't want to let go. Why these theories come up too. They don't want to admit that someone like Elvis died. They want to hold on to the idea that he's still alive.
Something happens to Kurt, we'll just continue on with the podcast and we'll throw little digs in there.
Yeah, throw little backwards messages.
Yeah.
We'll have some recordings of him that'll play in the background to see if we'll backmask it.
Kurt is
we'll
alive.
say with his health and
this is way more effort we've ever put into it before.
Eating habits, of course he would have been fine.
Yeah. Too many ramen noodles would be my cause.
So, rumors of his death being fake. So this is from an article.
I might have to fake my death because the fame of the podcast is really
getting to you.
It's getting to me.
Yeah, the drugs.
And the drug. Well,
is caffeine a drug?
Caffeine is a drug, but I've taken a lot of aspirin lately because I've had headaches. So.
Okay. You just take straight up aspirin?
Acetaminophen, Tylenol.
Oh, okay.
Excedrin is the stuff that works best for my headaches.
Me, it's ibuprofen all the
Get
way.
you some propofol or some barbiturates or no?
No.
Ashwagandha.
I stopped taking ashwagandha because they kept cranking the. When I originally bought the stress and anxiety relief pills at Walmart, they were $9.99.
Oh yeah.
And then
Jacking
Walmart
up
stopped
the
carrying
prices
them,
now.
and now I had to go to CVS or Walgreens, where all of a sudden now it's $29.99. So I'm like, no.
Some ayahuasca.
Kurt does not need ayahuasca.
Would that be good for stress?
Maybe.
2 hours that you're
Tripping.
for the 2 hours you're tripping balls, yeah.
But I can't, that's how do you live taking that many? I know you get tolerances to drugs, but oh my God, the drugs he had in his system were
Well, drugs to keep him awake, drugs to make him go to sleep,
Sure. Numb, whatever it is he's trying to numb.
But that's just so much.
Yeah. Okay, so this is from an article called Elvis Presley Died 40 Years Ago. Here's why some people think he's still alive. I think this is from Time. For decades, I do have all the resources that I'm going to list. For decades, fans have insisted, and I did rewrite a lot of this, by the way. I'm not just reading it word for word.
Like I do.
For decades, fans have insisted that they have seen Elvis out and about, and in 1989, 3 of his fans created the Elvis Sighting Society to monitor these apparent incidents. Some people even claimed he appeared as an extra in the 1990 blockbuster Home Alone. So,
yes, I remember that.
So you know what scene it is?
Yes.
So it's the scene where the mom is at the airport trying to get a ticket to get home, and she's getting a little snippy and yelling at the guy behind the counter. And you can see John. So it's coming up on her right is John Candy. On the TV, he'd be on the left, and over her other shoulder, her left shoulder, but on the right is somebody who kind of, sort of, a little bit resembles.
But you know how many
Elvis.
people look like Elvis, whether
No
intentionally
kidding.
or unintentionally? It's
Yeah. And he would have been 55 at the time. So I don't know. I mean, yes, he sort of kind of resembles him, but you're telling me somebody can't tell us the name of that extra? I didn't dig hard enough to find it, but I'm sure that guy exists, and his name is not Elvis Presley.
No.
Some people, including Gail Brewer Giorgio.
Yeah, Corey and I have both of the books by her.
Oh, you do?
Oh, yeah. Corey
Really?
and I are well steeped in Elvis is alive knowledge.
Let's tell you where I am, but
yeah, because he had a tape. It came with a tape, a cassette tape that was supposedly Elvis.
I listened to it.
Did you?
Yeah, I'll talk about it on here. I'll get to that.
Yeah, quick. Okay, sorry. Got Krista. But yeah, Corey and I go way back with that.
Okay, interesting. So Gail believed that Elvis went into the witness protection program to escape being killed by the mafia. In 1988, Gail wrote the best-selling book, Is Elvis Alive? She reviewed thousands of FBI documents and said in an interview about what she had uncovered, quote, "Do I know if Elvis is alive today? No, I don't," she said, "but I do know he didn't die on August 16." She claimed the FBI enlisted Elvis as an undercover agent in 1976 to help the agency infiltrate a criminal organization called the Fraternity, which was apparently made up of dozens of racketeers. Presley allegedly volunteered, spurred by his love of America and respect for the FBI. I guess.
But he did that with Nixon. Like he sent Nixon that letter saying that he wanted to do undercover work.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That would feel
because he was patriotic.
Honorary FBI agent or something like that.
Well, and he took a tour of the FBI headquarters or whatever and was like so in awe by it and respected it. And I think at some point during that tour was like, hey, if you ever need my help on anything, I'm always here to help. So I'm sure stuff like that just fuels the fire. But the author said the agency had approached Presley because a member of the fraternity had apparent dealings with Presley over the sale of an airplane the singer had. But when Presley was found to be a mole, he was put into the witness protection program, saying Giorgio cited that she had evidence from FBI documents and interviews. Quote, "Elvis faked his death because he was going to be killed, and there was no doubt about it," she said. The FBI did not immediately comment on the decades-old claim that Brewer Giorgio describes at length in her book. There's no mention of Presley aiding the FBI in the more than 760 files the federal agency has released that pertain to the singer between 1956 and 1980. The FBI never investigated Presley, but a folder in his name was created because he had been the target of several extortion attempts that the FBI was probing. It's a lot of records to have on somebody that they weren't investigating. The released documents outline the extortion cases, and they also show Presley's admiration for the FBI. Oh, I do talk about it. During a tour Presley took of the FBI's headquarters in 1971, the musician spoke favorably of the Bureau and offered his services in any way, according to an FBI memo. There's also mention of Presley's plane and a business arrangement involving the aircraft. Elvis experts say the docket lacks evidence suggesting Presley is alive. Quote, "Those FBI files are available to the public. I have them. There's nothing in there," said Patrick Lacey, an Elvis Presley researcher who wrote Elvis Decoded, which debunks the theories surrounding Presley's death. "All of the evidence points to a death. The medical evidence, the eyewitness report," Lacey told Time. "To have him have faked his death would have required the silence and services of literally hundreds, if not thousands of people over the years," which is incredibly true.
That's one of the arguments about faking the moon landing. They said if we fake the moon landing, there would have to be thousands of people involved in keeping it quiet.
Right.
Well, I mean, even the same thing with my story with Paul McCartney. It's like recording engineers,
Doctors,
management,
like
doctors, friends, like would all have to have been in on it and not said a word
in all these years.
And same thing with Elvis. Like all the people that he knew,
There is weird stuff about Elvis's death, though. I'm assuming you're going to get to some of it. Okay.
She actually claims she spoke with him on the phone in 1988 and recorded the conversation. One of the links I'll post has a video with a timestamp that has the recording. It actually does sound like him, but this person called her, so anybody could have called her. And with the number of Elvis impersonators that existed then and still exist today, it literally could be anyone. Another thing that people point out is that his tombstone misspells his middle name.
Yep.
So apparently Elvis's middle name was just spelled with one A, A-R-O-N. But on his tombstone, it's spelled with two A's. People claim that they would only do that if he was alive. I'm not sure what the logic is.
Because he said it's like bad luck to...
Okay.
And then, like, he had a brother that died at birth, a twin brother that died, and his name was supposed to be Garon, Garon.
Oh.
So then, like, his middle name with Aaron was a homage to him, I think.
Yeah.
There were also claims that family members. Oh, but it became known that he started spelling his middle name with 2 A's later in his life, though. Yeah. So I don't know. To me, that explains it. There are also claims that family members have kind of slipped up in interviews. Priscilla apparently said something in a 2005 interview with Oprah that alluded to her having just talked to him a few days ago. So she said something like, quote, "It's exactly what he said the other day," and then quickly said, "What you said. It's what you said the other day." And it's like, okay, people.
I could see him changing his middle name to having double A's just because people probably assumed that it was always a typo. Or he'd always be corrected on, oh, my middle name's Aaron, and then they would put AA, and he just gave up on
it's the most common way to
people.
spell it. Yeah. The earliest known so now we're going to talk about the sightings. The earliest known alleged sighting of Elvis post-death was the day after he died on August 17, 1977 at the Memphis International Airport. A man resembling Elvis gave the name John Burroughs.
Yeah, John Burroughs was his fake name.
Which was the same name Elvis used when booking hotels. At that time, one could board a flight without ID, using only their plane ticket. A series of alleged sightings took place in Kalamazoo, Michigan in the late 1980s. In California, many people believed that they had seen Elvis at California's Legoland amusement park shortly after opening in 1999. It was later revealed that Elvis impersonators were hired as an attraction to commemorate Presley.
Like you said,
literally
how many Elvis
all of them
impersonators
could be
are there
explained.
out there?
Exactly.
There's so many.
From the time of Elvis's death to 1983, Sun Records owner Shelby Singleton marketed the recordings of Elvis sounded like James Ellis as strongly implied to be that of Elvis. Ellis donned a domino mask and assumed the identity of Orion.
Yep.
Based upon the title character in Gail Brewer Giorgio's 1978 novel about a major pop star who fakes his own death. Ellis disowned the Orion persona in 1983, but returned to it to less success since the ruse had been broken and there was little to distinguish his act from Elvis impersonators from 1987 until his death. In late 1988, record label LS Records released the song Spelling on the Stone, sung by an unknown vocalist purporting to be Presley. The song's narrative suggested that Presley had not actually died. Airplay received by the song on country music formats caused a number of listeners to call into radio stations and report sightings of the singer after hearing the song, while program directors of said stations debated whether or not the song's vocal track was actually Presley. So there's one sighting from 1977. A photographer had taken a picture. Have you seen this?
Yeah, it's in the second book, and
It looks like a reflection.
Yeah,
but it's
I don't think
supposed to be. It looks like him, though.
I've heard about the picture for a long time, and when I finally saw it, I'm like, oh, that's not that.
Yeah, it's like a picture of the front of Graceland or whatever, and then you can see him in the
pool,
window.
like
in a
door,
pool.
In a pool door.
It said it's in a pool room. It almost looks like a reflection of him to me rather than someone sitting in a room.
It's just very...
It does look like him, but do you know how many people looked like that at that time?
Yeah.
With the mutton chops and like the...
Yeah.
And then most recently, in 2016, there's a video of a man, like a groundskeeper, yard worker guy wandering around the ground. He's got white hair, he's got a beard, he's got the sideburns and everything, and people think he looks like Elvis. And he does something where he like scratches his ear, and they say it's like a secret thing that Elvis used to do something with his hand or whatever. But of course, the guy has been named. We know who he is.
Yeah.
It's not Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
So I think, again, it's that thing where people are just enjoy looking for the signs and the clues. It's not quite as in depth with like mysterious lyrics because there was nobody else left to write songs about it. But that's pretty much it. I think
was
he's dead.
The stuff with his funeral where the pallbearers said his coffin was way more heavy than it should have been. And the funeral was in summer, so people speculate that an air conditioner, because it was a wax dummy. It was a wax dummy in the coffin. And that it had an air conditioner, but then there are people.
He was not a small guy though. At the end.
There are people that went through, and somebody is quoted as saying that it was so hot that you could see his body and was sweating in the tombstone in the coffin, and bodies don't sweat, so people take that to be that the wax was starting to melt because it was so hot. But he does not look like the picture of him in the coffin. Does not look like him to me.
They never do though.
I know. But
have you ever seen anyone?
Everybody said that the nose was different, but then somebody said when he fell, when he died, he fell on his nose, so they had to like reconstruct his nose, kind of.
He could have also been buried. A lot of people like to be buried with items in their coffin.
Yeah.
That could add to the weight.
Yeah. But there's a lot of people that there was a lot of weird stuff about his funeral.
I think it's another one of those things. He was beloved.
Yeah.
Another one of those girls screaming and passing out when he was nearby.
Yeah.
Like, people did not want to accept that he was gone, even though towards the end they were saying that fans were really disappointed in the concerts because he was slurring and forgetting lyrics and clearly drugged up most of the time, but he was still beloved, and people just didn't want to
accept the fact that he was gone.
Yeah, that's my theory. I think he's dead. Guys, do you think he's dead?
Yeah. Like all those famous people that died, like you said, people wanted to let him live on.
Andy Kaufman. People think Andy Kaufman didn't really die.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's a really interesting one from, I talk about this website on here. It's Crazy Days and Nights. It's a blind gossip where every day there's like 20, this A-list celebrity is sleeping with this B-list, and the commenters trying to figure out who it was.
Okay.
And then a couple years ago, they had one that, the guy that writes the thing was like, this one was kept so secret, I don't even know about it. But he said this old-time movie actor that supposedly died has now actually died in the same way that he was supposedly died. And then people that were commenting like really dug into this, and it turns out that it's supposed to be James Dean, that he faked his death. And there was like a 97-year-old guy in Canada that kind of, and people like dug through all the newspaper stuff to find it. And he kind of did look like James Dean. So a lot of people speculate that from this, but that site also is really out there sometimes, but a lot of people think James
Not
Dean
exactly
faked,
credible.
Yeah, James Dean faked that they got a cadaver and put that in the car, and that James Dean faked his death because James Dean didn't like being famous. He really didn't. Like him, I could almost see faking his death just to get out of being famous. Elvis, I
actually could kind of see. I mean, he was not living a good life at the end. I could see him wanting to disappear and just like start over somewhere else. Yeah.
That just seems so hard to do. Like, it's okay. Like that guy in Wisconsin with the
kayak.
Well,
it's okay to do
though.
that if you're not being adored by millions of fans. But you can just fake your death and go to Russia, wherever it was, wherever he was. And you can't do that if you're Elvis or Paul McCartney or anybody that's super famous, because
all the amount of money in the world. Yeah.
But at the same time, there's so many Elvis impersonators and people that look like Elvis at that time that if he did that, he could just be like, no, I'm an Elvis impersonator.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, even if there are 2,000 Elvis impersonators, then you throw in another couple hundred that just look like him that aren't trying to impersonate, you're going to run into somebody at an airport or you could be an extra in a film or just be, on the streets in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and people are going to say that they saw Elvis. Mm-hmm. But I can't imagine there's a whole lot of Elvis sightings now for anybody that's, what would it be, 30 or under?
Yeah.
Because they're not going to really
know what he
know.
looks like.
Right. We're all still picturing young Elvis. I mean, he'd be old now.
Like Paul McCartney isn't dead. Paul McCartney is
he's
very much alive. But the Elvis one, I can buy a little more that he faked his death. I really can.
I don't think he did. I think he's dead. But I could buy it a little bit.
Yeah. Cool. Is that it?
That's it.
Wow. There's a lot of musical... 2 rock stars and a composer with a mysterious code. Song? I'm pooped.
Wow. We have a whole nother episode to record.
Yeah,
although it's literally just us answering questions.
Yeah, we have a Christmas. Thank you guys so much for everybody that sent in questions, because Corey got a lot of questions sent in. So we're excited about that. Do you guys have musical things
I
or
don't
no?
know.
Corey, do you?
No, but I can come up with one.
Okay. I'll do mine. Where is it here? So this song I never heard. I don't even know when it's from. It might be the 90s or the 2000s. I have never heard it. It's a Canadian band. And I think I was looking up stuff from Shoresy, and that's when I found it. But some comments for this underneath. It's a really happy song. And as everybody knows, things have sucked for me lately, so I'm trying to be in a better mood. But this song was a really happy song. And some of the comments on here on YouTube, one of them says, quote, "This song kicked my depression's butt, at least for a couple days. Got to feel some actual happiness again for a short while." Somebody else writes, quote, "My friend was in a car accident some years ago, and I sent her this song to calm her down and to help her realize that sometimes things happen. It isn't you who did it, but it is you who reacts to it." Somebody else writes, quote, heard this song for the first time in years the other day, and it couldn't have come at a better time. The lyrics are so uplifting. It's been helping me power through some rough days. Somebody else writes, quote, heavy drinking tonight, and I couldn't pick a better song to warm up to. God bless Canada. And it is the song Ordinary Day by a band named Great Big Sea, which I had never heard of. But it's kind of a cool song. Like, I had never heard it, and now I actually really like the song. So it is Ordinary Day by Great Big Sea. It is a nice, feel-good song.
Sweet.
Yep.
All right, mine, I'm always watching YouTube at work since there's really not much else to do. And I like watching reaction videos. And
me too.
Some of the more popular ones, you know,
Rob Squad Reacts is still my favorite. I love Rob Squad Reacts.
So they jump on, like, either what's going to give them the most views, the most content, or they actually branch out and kind of do what's popular or what their subscribers or fans or whatever want them to do. And I don't know if either one of you guys all know the song Last Resort by Papa Roach.
Yeah.
So a couple months ago, Falling in Reverse did a cover of it, a reimagining cover of it, where it's not that pop punk hard rock kind of anthem song.
Yeah.
It's a really touching song. Like, it's done in the right way of what you think the song should have been done as. So if you're looking for
like an anthem,
trying to get the real feel for what the song should have been, go and watch that on YouTube. You have to watch the video too, because it kind of adds quite a bit to the song.
So it's them doing...
It's Falling in Reverse doing Papa Roach's cover.
I never heard that. I like the original song.
We'll listen to it in our break here, because it's really super powerful. You watch the reaction videos, it brings people to tears.
Dang.
And then you can see where Ronnie Radke, the lead singer of Falling in Reverse, wanted the approval of Jacoby Shaddix of Papa Roach. He wanted his approval before he released it.
Yeah.
So there's a video of him showing Jacoby what the song is going to be, and then you can see just how pumped like Jacoby gets, saying, "Yeah, man, go release it. This is probably the way the song should have been done." So there's also a video of Ronnie Radke showing it off to get Jacoby's approval. So if you want to have a couple tears come to your eyes and feel the song for probably the way it should have been, go ahead and watch that.
I love it as like a heavier song, though. That's like a good song.
But I think you'll like it as the
slower one. Yeah, I'm excited to check that out. I didn't even know they did that.
Cool.
Crystal's got nothing? And questions we're going to be doing very shortly in the Christmas episode, which will come out on Christmas Eve. We'll release it on Christmas Eve. Do we have anything else? I'm pooped. Deets. I'm so happy that it's our season break, because I am exhausted. But
it's rough.
I think
it's rough coming on here once a year.
Corey gets tired. I think next week I'm going to release the poll for what the strangers want for the season opener to be, so I can start researching it. Because like I said, now I wake up in the morning and it's like, oh, what do I do now with my... when I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's like, oh, what am I doing now? I don't have anything to research.
Also, we should mention we forgot to do a side sessions last week.
We did forget to do a side session. Sorry.
It's the end of the season.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
That's it. There's no more side sessions this year.
While we are on break, you can email us at TheStrangeSessions@gmail.com. We are on Instagram at TheStrangeSessions, where Krista does a great job, and we have awesome followers on there. You can send postcards and snail mail, but don't send taste test stuff, because we're not going to be getting together again for a little while. You can send postcards and snail mail to The Strange Sessions. I'm going to have to pay for our box again. The Strange Sessions, P.O. Box 434, Manitowoc, Wisconsin, 54221-0434. You can call our lonely phone line at 920-443-9602. Give it a call for Christmas, because it is lonely. You can send listener stories to TheStrangeSessionsStories@gmail.com. And now, if you want to send listener questions, you can send it to TheStrangeSessionsQuestions@gmail.com.
And I will get them.
And Corey will get them, because Corey has access to it. So,
and a quick disclaimer, just about social media. This is the time of year when I kind of go dark. So
yeah,
you might, if you're sending stuff to Instagram or me on Instagram, or I'm probably not going to be getting back to you anytime soon, because I like to take a little break right around now.
Yeah.
If you want to subscribe to Kurt's OnlyFans.
Subscribe to my OnlyFans. You will get to see me in my podcasting underwear.
Ooh.
And feet pics.
You don't want to see foot pics from me.
That just gave me the heebie-jeebies. Feet are gross. Sorry.
Feet are gross. I don't get that whole scenario.
Wow, this took a turn.
That did take a turn.
Going out with a bang.
What was I going to say? No, you totally blew my mind, whatever I was going to say. But I'll still be like around on social media, but I tell you, Facebook sucks lately. Like, I don't like Facebook. Instagram, I'm getting so many. It annoys me when I get all these like obvious people following me.
They just want the follow
That
back.
just want the follow back. I don't know what else. It's been a long season. It really has. I'm sorry if I've been depressed this season. It's been a rough couple months, and I feel like it comes through. People have said that it comes through, that I'm just like, just down and out and all that stuff. So hopefully by the time we get back together, we reconvene, things are better. I have a job.
We're trying to make positive forward steps for Kurt to get some stuff under control.
It was funny. I went to the doctor. I had a doctor's appointment this week for the first time in years, and I'm in the waiting room, and I get a phone call from Corey to see if I actually went.
Probably good.
No, if I make an appointment for something, I am not going to blow it off. But it's getting me to make. Once I make the appointment, I'm locked in. It's getting me to make the appointment.
The younger brother has to keep an eye on the older brother.
He does. Corey takes care of me, and I have a couple applications for jobs in. So hopefully by the time we reconvene, things are better. I actually have money to buy coffee and ramen noodles with. But hopefully things are better. And like I said, I feel I'm frustrated because I want to get away. Like when I'm listening to Mysteriously Eclectic, they're talking. And I want to get away from just staring at my screen and reading, but it is so hard for me to do that. Like, I like when Corey comes on because then I feel like we have more conversing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love that. Like, I would love an episode where we have no notes, where we just sit down and talk about something.
Maybe we have bullet points to remember to talk about certain things.
So, like, I want to get away from just staring at my screen and reading from a website.
Yeah, like the style of haunted objects. Theirs is just a conversation.
Yes, and that is my goal for next season. Like, I really want to try to do that more.
Cool.
But Aaron asked me, just as I don't even know where the segue is coming from, but Aaron asked me, he's like, what's this nutty putty thing Krista's talking about with the cave?
It.
And I showed him the diagram of how the person got wedged in the cave. And Aaron was like, that almost makes me sick looking at that. So Aaron's like,
don't watch that video because you get way too much of a description.
I would never watch that video.
It haunted me for weeks.
I would never watch that video.
I would lay in bed with my eyes closed and think I would go, stop, Krista, stop thinking about it. It's like so traumatizing.
Aaron's like, they got wedged in there like that? Yes. And I'm like, yeah.
Ugh.
So
why did you bring that up?
I don't know. Now Krista's going to have night terrors.
Day terrors.
What time are we looking at?
We're at 2 hours.
Okay. Do we got anything else? Any stuff you watched? I loved the show Beef on Netflix. I loved that so much more than I thought I would, especially the last episode. The last episode is such a Kurt episode. Like, I loved it. Yellow Jackets, I'm caught up on. School Spirits, I really liked.
I haven't watched it yet.
That one I really liked. What else? Gilmore Girls, I'm obsessed with, thanks to Krista. Like, I'm literally obsessed with Gilmore Girls now.
Wait till you're on your third, fourth, or fifth rewatch.
I don't know. Krista got me a Gilmore Girls ornament for Christmas, which is really sweet. But I can understand having that on in the background as like a comfort show.
It's a total comfort show.
It's so cozy. Like, I love that show. But I'm trying to buzz through it now because now I want to listen to the podcast that Luke. I want to listen to like Luke's podcast because I've already doing the trivia contest. I heard some spoilers for stuff that's coming up for me. So love the Gilmore Girls so much.
Did you watch the Expedition Files?
No.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah, I don't normally like to like 3 or 4 stories all condensed.
He does it well though.
But he does it well.
Jack the Ripper that was very interesting. Like,
I should ask.
They possibly know who it is.
I should ask Brian. I got to ask Brian Young about that because Brian Young is a Jack the Ripper.
They talked about the Max Headroom thing.
Did they? Because we got to do that too. We have to do.
What was the first one? Oh, Yeti. Or the second one was Yeti.
That's going to be, I think, on the list for possible topics is broadcast signal intrusions because I'm fascinated by those.
I know how much you like the that ranch and. What is it?
Oh,
Skinwalker
Ranch. You might like that Blind Frog Ranch.
Oh, that's pretty good.
I tried watching it and I couldn't get into it.
Oh, I think it's even better than the
Yeah, I just could not get into
We lost
it.
track of it. So we watched several episodes and then we just never finished it.
I know the new season just started. I think there's 2 episodes of the new season, but I think there actually might be some legitness with that one, more so than the
You
other
don't think
ones.
Skinwalker Ranch is legit?
No.
I do. I think there's weird stuff going on. We almost should revisit that too. I think we have enough stuff for one more season of the show.
Yeah, we'll be good.
So we got more strange states. We got strange countries we got to do. I can't believe we've been doing this for
Since 2017.
8 years. 8 years?
Yeah.
Good Lord. I feel like we were so young when we started. Remember at the old school?
I know. I don't miss that place at all.
I miss that place. It's more cozy doing it here in your basement. Where the only
Less driving.
thing to be scared
Less
of
interruptions.
is the white tornado Lucy,
Yeah.
who ignored me today because Corey was here.
Yeah, she was all about Corey.
Yeah. So I think that's it that's a wrap on season 8.
Wow.
We got season 9 coming up. Corey, thank you so much for joining us for the finale. It is not a finale unless you're here.
Or a Christmas episode.
Or a Christmas episode, which we are finally admitting that we are going to have a
We stopped
Christmas
denying
episode.
it because we had to for this one.
Yeah, because we needed questions. Corey said Corey's got a little folder all printed out with questions.
You know,
It's weird me not knowing the questions we're going to
I'm
be
a little
getting.
nervous, honestly.
we should have hinted towards a Christmas episode with little snippets during the
Oh, like little
episodes,
hints,
yeah.
like little reverse messages,
Yeah,
and
yeah. You could just go like along with our.
We'll do that next year.
Elvis and Paul McCartney.
and like in our picture,
Yeah.
I would be pointing at the Christmas tree, like stuff like that.
Yep.
So maybe next year we'll do that. But yes, we will be back on Christmas Eve with basically an all questions. I'm excited about this because there's no research. We're done with the research. But we'll be back for another season where I'm going to try to tweak it so I'm not just reading as much, so we have more discussion. I'm going to do my best. Hopefully life is a little better then, and I have a little more pep in me, I guess.
Pep in your step.
But thank you so much, Corey, for joining us.
Yep.
We're going to segue to the Christmas episode that you guys can look forward to on the morning of December 24th. Krista, anything you'd like to say to wrap up our season 8?
I just can't believe we have 8 seasons under
I
our
can't
belt.
either.
And
It's just
yes,
insane
I'm
to me.
also very ready for a break.
Oh my God,
sure.
I am too. But like I said, I'm going to wake up and that's my research time. And now it's going to be like, oh, what do I do? So I'm going to ask you guys what you want for the season opener.
Become
and
an avid doodler.
I'm going to start putting codes and stuff for you guys to break.
Yeah.
But I'm going to get a head start on next season's episodes. There's stuff that like we don't do a lot of true crime stuff, and John Bonet I'd like to talk about. So maybe we'll do that one. But
You can always throw an update podcast in there too, because I mean, there's not a whole
I'd
lot.
like to do a Skinwalker Ranch update. I would like to do Laura Murray
Delphi.
update.
Delphi was an
Yeah, the
update.
Delphi
Oh,
update.
yeah.
Yeah, so we got stuff. We're good for 2 more seasons, I think.
Sure.
We'll re-sign our contracts. We'll look at our contracts.
Yeah.
But thank you guys so much for everything you guys do for us. Thank you for subscribing.
Thank you to our
for,
YouTube
Yes,
viewers.
thank you for listening. Thank you for commenting. We got I suck at doing that. We got some really sweet emails lately
Throwing
from
gang
people.
signs at the YouTube.
Yeah, throwing gang signs. We got some really sweet emails lately that I should have read, but didn't this episode, so maybe we will some other time. But we've gotten really sweet messages from you guys about how much you enjoy listening to us and how much we help you get through your day-to-day lives. So we love you guys so much, and thank you for listening to us. Thank you for caring, and we will see you in a couple months for season 9. Bye, everybody. Oh, until next
Wow.
time. I totally forgot. Until next time,
Stay
stay strange. Bye.